Chapter 2652. If it was said that the bosses in the room came to this kind of nightclub because they liked to play, then Yunjian's killing method just now was definitely the most frightening thing these bosses had ever seen in their lives. It was countless times more frightening than the exaggerated killing methods in the movies. Don't kill us. No. Siyuan, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I really didn't want to hurt you. I just wanted you to earn more money. Let me go. I beg you. Let me go. I really know I was wrong. Yuan Tianqi saw everything that happened in front of her clearly. When she saw the boss kneeling in front of Yunjian being stepped on by Yunjian on the fatal point of his head and killed instantly, she was so scared that her lips and teeth were trembling violently. She desperately pulled at the hem of Yunjian's clothes and shrank behind her. Her legs were weak, and she was 5 centimeters away from kneeling in front of Yunjian. She wanted to use Siyuan to make Yunjian let her go. However, Yuan Tianqi saw hatred in Siyuan's eyes. Siyuan, who grew up beside Yunjian and Ce, wasn't a rich young lady who couldn't bear to see a drop of blood. Although she didn't usually deal with things personally, she had seen plenty of bloody things. Hence, when Yunjian dealt with this group of people one by one, Siyuan's face didn't reveal any fear. Yuan Tianqi didn't dare to approach Yunjian at all, afraid that she would end up like the boss who knelt in front of Yunjian just now. However, she saw that Siyuan didn't want to pay attention to her at all, so she shrank back to Hongjia's side. Hong. Hongjia, save me. Yuan Tianqi was almost scared to death. She desperately grabbed Hongjia's hand and begged. Hiding in a corner, Hongjia had actually already sent out a text message. It was to ask her superiors to call for reinforcements. After being pulled by Yuan Tianqi, Sister Hong was afraid that Yuan Tianqi would implicate her, so she fiercely pushed Yuan Tianqi in front of Yunjian. She wanted to use this to stall for time, so that she could save herself. Yuan Tianqi was abruptly pushed in front of Yunjian. She was so scared that her face was smudged, and her foundation was soaked in sweat. Don't kill me. After being pushed in front of Yunjian, Yuan Tianqi was so scared that he was like a tortoise that desperately flipped over. His hands and feet were frantically flapping about, fearing that Yunjian would touch a certain part of his body and kill him. His posture of being slapped by the wind was no different from a job-hopping clown. Just as Yuan Tianqi was frantically flailing his arms and legs in an attempt to stop Yunjian from approaching him, suddenly, a group of people walked in from outside the big box. When she saw that the person leading the group was her solid backer, Sister Hong rushed to him almost immediately. Brotherly, save me. Save me. The leader, who was called Brotherly, pushed Sister Hong away without a trace. With a very respectful posture, he invited the handsome man walking behind him into the box. Sister Hong suddenly remembered that Brotherly had once told her that Brotherly was working with a very mysterious big boss. Could it be the handsome man who had just walked into the private room? Brother Hearing had boasted that this mysterious big boss behind the scenes was even more powerful than Slaying God, who was ranked first on the international secret agent ranking. When she turned her head and saw this handsome man walk into the room, Sister Hong felt that she was saved. She cleared her throat and spoke to the handsome man. She pointed at Yunjian in the room and said loudly with a half-smile, "You're here to save us, right? She's the one who's causing trouble. Please." Before Sister Hong could finish, Siyuan, who stood beside Yunjian, dashed to the handsome man and grabbed his hand, telling him tearfully, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Dad. Chapter 2653. Dad. Siyuan. She actually called this handsome man who looked to be in his 20s father. What was wrong with this world? Everyone's face, including Sister Hong's, instantly turned pale. Dad? Brotherly. Sister Hong's face gradually turned pale. She had a very bad feeling about this. At this moment, Sister Hong was looking at Brotherly, seeking an answer. Brotherly glared at Sister Hong fiercely. He bent down and smiled at Ce. My slaves here didn't do it on purpose. You see. Although Brotherly glared at Sister Hong fiercely, he still pleaded with Ce in private for Sister Hong's sake. Bang. Ce didn't say anything. He took out a silver pistol from his waist. Without even looking, He aimed the gun at Brother Lee's head and shot him in the head. After that, Ce lifted his leg and kicked Brother Lee's corpse out of the room. He then looked at Ce Yuan from the corner of his eyes. Are you okay? Ce could be so gentle to Yun Jian that it made people's hearts ache. However, Ce was like Yun Jian to Ce Yuan. They were both from 2004. To Ce, it was as simple as seeing a 15-year-old daughter as one of his own. Dad, I'm fine. Ce Yuan nodded heavily. Her tears were falling, and there was even a string of snot on her nose. She looked quite cute. It wasn't hard to explain why Ce Yuan could recognize Yun Jian and Ce at a glance. Yun Jian was the sorcerer goddess of Yulong mainland, and Ce was the lord of God's mainland. The immortal cultivators of the mainland could generally live for more than 1,000 years. Some of the more powerful ones could even live forever. For humans, 15 years could change a person's appearance from young to old. However, for Yun Jian and Ce, this didn't exist. Because 3 years ago, in 2016, they still maintained their youthful appearance. Sister Hong had not expected that her only savior, Brother Lee, would be killed by Ce in a single shot the moment he arrived. Her expression could not be described with just one word. You all. As Sister Hong spoke, she retreated backwards. Her face was so pale that it could not be any paler. Yuan Tianqi struggled as he retreated to a corner of the room. At this time, Ce Yuan pulled Ce to Yun Jian's side. She pulled Yun Jian's hand over and placed it on top of Ce's hand. Dad, Mom, you're still alive. That's great. As she spoke, Ce Yuan wanted to cry again. Yun Jian raised her hand to wipe away Ce Yuan's tears and cast a sharp glance at Hong Jie and Yuan Tianqi. After dealing with these, I'll take you out for supper. Huzhou City, a roadside barbecue shop. Ce Yuan sat inside the barbecue shop with a skewer in each hand. She looked like she hadn't eaten such delicious food in a long time. She ate in big bites while drinking Sprite. Seeing Yun Jian and Ce looking at her, Ce Yuan wiped her face and said to Yun Jian and Ce, Dad, Mom, you guys eat too. As she spoke, Ce Yuan picked up 2 skewers of mutton and gave one to Yun Jian and one to Ce. Needless to say, after growing up, Ce Yuan really had the urge to pinch her cheeks. She was very cute. Judging from her appearance, Yun Jian was not much older than Ce Yuan, and so was Ce. Therefore, when the young man selling skewers heard Ce Yuan's words, his foot, which was holding a plate of skewers, slipped. He stopped in time and couldn't help but shout at Ce Yuan. What the hell? Are you playing house? Come. Wonderful book house. Chapter 2654. This young man was tall and thin, but he didn't look good. His nose was a little flat, and his mouth was a little crooked. So when he said this, Ce Yuan was amused. This is my dad and this is my mom. What do you think? Young enough. Ce Yuan couldn't help showing off. As she spoke, Ce Yuan thought of another person. She bent down and nibbled on the mutton skewer in her hand. Suddenly, she didn't want to talk anymore. Fine. I'm old. I don't understand the games of young people. The young man brought the barbecue plate to Yun Jian and Ce's table. He scratched his head and continued to work on his barbecue. Next, we have news. The Pegasus nightclub in Huzhou City in province suddenly caught fire. Just now, fire trucks were sent to rescue, but because the fire was too big and too fierce, many people were still trapped inside and couldn't be rescued. Currently, further rescue efforts are underway. Hopefully, more people can be rescued. For the latest news, please pay attention to our TV station. We will report the details as soon as possible. The TV in the barbecue restaurant that was originally playing cartoons suddenly broadcast such news. Everyone sitting around heard it. The Pegasus nightclub was a popular place for men in Huzhou City to pass time. The girls here were clearly priced. If you had the money, you could take them away. The reason why such a place wasn't closed down was because of the power and influence. Now that such a thing happened, the people sitting in the barbecue restaurant started to talk. The Pegasus nightclub. How could it burn down just like that? Hey, you don't understand. Most likely they met an enemy. The girls in the Pegasus nightclub are all very beautiful. It's a pity that it was burned down. The vulgar discussions of a few bachelors at the table next to them could be heard. Yunjian, Ce, and Siyuan ignored them. Needless to say, she was the one who set the fire. Yunjian didn't let go of anyone who participated in the murder of Siyuan. Siyuan didn't ask about the arrival of Yunjian and Ce. In fact, when Siyuan left, Siyuan knew that Siyuan went to the past and wanted to change history. Now Ce already knew the identities and backgrounds of Yunjian and Ce. As she ate the barbecue skewers in her mouth, the forced smile on her face slowly disappeared. She raised her head abruptly and said to Yunjian and Ce, "Dad, Mom, it's so good to see you again." At the end of her speech, Siyuan seemed to recall something and her tone suddenly became choked with sobs. Yunjian patted Siyuan's back. She didn't know how to comfort the child, so she just asked, "What's wrong?" "Dad, Mom, can you not leave me? I'm afraid that everyone will leave me. I don't want to be alone anymore. That guy Zhou Yiren once said that he would stay by my side and protect me, but he still left. He died for me. I don't want to wander alone anymore." Sob, sob, sob. Siyuan suddenly gave up her fake smile, buried her head on the table, and burst into tears. Just as Siyuan was burying her head in the ground and bursting into tears, she suddenly felt someone pressing on her shoulder. Then her head was lifted up by someone's hand. When she saw the person who had once died to save her appear in front of her, Siyuan was stunned. The person who came was none other than Zhou Yiran, who was supposed to be dead. Back then, Zhou Yiran had pulled Siyuan's hand into his embrace, right in front of Ce and Yunjian. He ignored Ce's sharp gaze that swept over and rubbed Siyuan's head, telling her, "What's the matter? Silly, how could I die? Don't forget, you promised me before that you would be my wife." Chapter 2655. Her head was suddenly pushed up by someone. She heard the magnetic voice of the man she thought had died for her. Siyuan's head swayed for a while. Zhou Yiran, who was in his 20s, had already grown up to be fresh and handsome. His youthful appearance had faded away. The current Zhou Yiran was no longer the immature little kid from before. Even when he stood next to Ce, he was not inferior in terms of height. Zhou Yiran, you big bastard, you didn't die? Do you know how sad I was when I saw you die? Why didn't you die, you big bastard? Siyuan's body froze when Zhou Yiran suddenly pulled her into his arms. When she came back to her senses, she hit Zhou Yiran's chest twice with all her might. Tears streamed down her face. After Siyuan hit his chest twice, Zhou Yiran cracked a smile. He reached out and gently placed his hand on Siyuan's head. He comforted her but did not say anything. Just as Zhou Yiran placed his hand on Siyuan's head and gently stroked it, his collar was suddenly pulled back. Ce, who was originally sitting with Yunjian, was now standing behind Zhou Yiran. She practically grabbed Zhou Yiran's collar and pulled him away from Siyuan. "Sit over there." Ce mercilessly dragged Zhou Yiran to a bench a few seats away from Siyuan. His eyes were cold. "Dad, what are you doing?" Siyuan saw Zhou Yiran being pulled away by Ce. She pouted and wiped away her tears. She was not pretentious. Ce looked like he was only in his 20s. However, he was called Dad by a 16-year-old girl. The people around the barbecue shop looked at him strangely. Ce did not respond to Yunjian's words. He took a lamb skewer, which was Yunjian's favorite, from the barbecue plate and personally delivered it to Yunjian's mouth. Ce and Yunjian were from 2004 to 2019. So they didn't get along with their daughter, Siyuan, and they weren't very close. However, blood ties could not be broken. When Zhou Yiran hugged Ce in front of her, Ce instinctively grabbed Zhou Yiran's collar and pulled him behind her. "Mom, Dad is bullying me." Seeing that Ce was ignoring her, Siyuan sat on the stool and slowly moved to Yunjian's side. Then, she reached out and grabbed Yunjian's arm. She pouted and looked aggrieved. Yunjian didn't say anything. She raised her eyebrows and rubbed Ce's head. She glared at Ce and didn't take the mutton skewers that Ce handed over to her. She was giving face to Ce on behalf of Ce. Siyuan understood Yunjian, and she understood Ce even more. She knew that once her mother did that, her father would. Sure enough, Ce's face immediately darkened. Looking at her expression, she wasn't happy at all. "Mom, I want to sleep with you tonight, okay?" Siyuan had already grabbed Yunjian's arm, and put her head on Yun Jian's shoulder. She looked like she wouldn't give up until she snatched Yun Jian from Ce. Okay. What made Ce's face even more gloomy was that Yun Jian actually nodded in agreement. No. After Yun Jian agreed, Ce immediately said with a sullen face. His voice was so loud that all the customers in the barbecue shop turned to look. However, Ce didn't care. Why, Dad, I'll just borrow her for a day and return her to you tomorrow. I'm scared to sleep alone today. I think of them when I close my eyes now. Si Yuan shook Yun Jian's arm and acted coquettishly to Ce. Of course, she was referring to the people who were involved in the incident at Pegasus nightclub. After Si Yuan finished speaking, she knew that with Ce's pampering personality, she would definitely agree. However, just as she finished speaking, Ce grabbed the confused Zhou Ran and pushed him in front of Si Yuan. He'll sleep with you tonight. Don't steal my woman. Chapter 2656. The moment Ce said this, Zhou Ran, who was still thinking, was completely dumbfounded. Huh. Zhou Ran had his hand on his head and was deep in thought. Now that he heard Ce's words, he seemed to have been struck by lightning. He stood rooted to the ground, stunned. The future Ce doted on Si Yuan a lot. He gave Si Yuan whatever she wanted. Everyone said that Ce doted on Si Yuan to the heavens. However, he was very strict with Si Yuan. For example, she was not allowed to stay out at night. She had to be home before dark at 7 p.m. She was not allowed to hold hands with men. She was not allowed to have intimate contact with men. He was as strict as he could be. The future Ce wanted Si Yuan to be obedient even if he had to give Yun Jian to her for a day. However, the 2004 Ce actually pushed Zhou Ran to Si Yuan. Si Yuan. Zhou Ran. Dad, you weren't like this in the past. Although Si Yuan knew that Ce was from 2004, she could not help but smile when she heard Ce's words. Ahem. Zhou Ran scratched his head calmly. Then I'll accept your offer. Zhou Ran would not let go of such a good opportunity. Zhou Ran had been taught by his father since he was young. If you wanted a woman, don't say anything. Take her as your own first. Adam had instilled this idea in Zhou Ran since he was young. He even told Zhou Ran that he had forcefully taken over Lan Su and forced Lan Su to be with him in the end. However, the future Ce protected Si Yuan too well, and did not give Zhou Ran a chance to make a move. Zhou Ran would never have thought that it would not be him playing tricks this time. It would be Ce who would personally send his daughter to his bed. Dad, I don't want to. When Si Yuan heard that Ce wanted her to sleep in the same room as Zhou Ran, her first reaction was to be shy and then resist. Although Si Yuan did have thoughts of being closer to Zhou Ran than treating him as an older brother, she did have the feelings of a young girl towards Zhou Ran. But to sleep in the same room as Zhou Ran, wasn't this? Was he going to discover the secret that she didn't want to tell anyone during her teenage years? Then I'll sleep alone. Ce remained expressionless the entire time. Please don't, Dad. I'm really scared. Si Yuan held Yun Jian's hand, looking aggrieved. However, no matter how aggrieved she felt, Ce would not let go. Yun Jian sat at the side and smiled faintly. Yun Jian and the others were sitting at the barbecue restaurant's table. They were surrounded by large tents, and Yun Jian and the others were sitting in a corner. Even if people passed by, they wouldn't notice them. After the barbecue was served, Ce started discussing business with Zhou Ran. Yun Jian and Ce had been in 2019 for a short period of time, but in fact it hadn't been long. It had only been 1 or 2 months. Ce was indeed the leader of An Hun. In just 1 or 2 months, Ce returned to the international scene, and directly took back all of An Hun's scattered forces. Her speed was so fast that Yuan Xing and Zhou Ran, who were leading the way, were shocked. Yes, except for Ce and Xingfeng who didn't die, Yuan Xing and Zhou Ran both survived. However, Zhou Ran faked his own death in order to secretly investigate the mysterious person. Of course, Zhou Ran had secretly sent people to protect Si Yuan for the past 3 years. However, because he was afraid that the mysterious person would notice, he didn't dare to show up or protect her too tightly. At this moment, Zhou Ran was telling Ce all the information he had investigated over the years to Ce. Chapter 2657. I've searched all over the world. The mysterious man is currently residing in Zhe Province's Longmen City. There was no one around, but for safety's sake, Zhou Ran lowered his voice and spoke to Ce softly. Si Yuan was still like a child. She ate the skewers in big bites. The oil on the skewers dripped down and landed on her collar. Yun Jian was wiping the oil that had dripped onto Si Yuan's collar with a tissue. While she was wiping the oil off Si Yuan's collar, Yun Jian was also listening to Zhou Ran. Zhou Ran had already said this to Ce. He repeated it this time mainly for Yun Jian. There must be a hiding place for the mysterious man somewhere in Country Z's Longmen City. According to his understanding of you, this mysterious man is probably someone who has been lurking in Longmen City since Aunt Yun Jian was reborn. In other words, before the mysterious man became a mysterious man, he knew everything that happened to Aunt Yun Jian in the future like the back of his hand. So now we only need to start from the people Aunt Yun Jian came into contact with in Longmen City before. Zhou Ran had obtained sufficient evidence, which was why he said those words. Yun Jian's eyes narrowed. First of all, the mysterious man was not a mysterious man from the beginning. He was just an ordinary human on Earth in the beginning. This was the first point. After the mystery man became the mystery man in the future world, he returned to the mystery continent. Ambition swallowed him up, and he was not satisfied with that. So, in order to get rid of the sovereign god of the gods' continent, he ambushed the sorcerer goddess, whom the sovereign god admired. It was then that the witch goddess was rescued by the Lord God and unintentionally went to Earth. On Earth in this era, he who had yet to become a mysterious man was still an ordinary person. The two dimensions were in disarray. As the witch goddess, Yun Jian must have met the mysterious man who had yet to become a mysterious man. The future could be changed. When the mysterious man returned to the beginning of the divine continent, he changed the future of the divine continent as well as himself. That was to say, before he became the mysterious man, he met Yun Jian and learned more about Yun Jian. Therefore, after becoming a mysterious man, he basically knew Yun Jian's future. This was the key. Therefore, it was both simple and complicated to find the mysterious man. First, they had to list all the people Yun Jian had come into contact with when she was reborn in Longmen City. Secondly, he had to find someone who knew Yun Jian's whereabouts from the list. That person might be the mysterious man. As long as you know who the mysterious man is, Uncle Ce and Aunt Yun Jian, you can immediately go back 15 years and kill the mysterious man before he became the mysterious man. Then none of this would have happened. Zhou Ran's mind was very clear. He quickly sorted out a list of disgust and told it to Yun Jian and Ce. Stepping through the door of time and space, a person could change history. The disarray of time and space was not non-existent. If you changed history alone, the future would be changed as well. When the people in the future discovered the door of time and space, the original historical trajectory would be turned upside down. Zhou Ran did not know that it was because he was so young but had such a bright mind that Ce asked him to sleep with her at night. Chapter 2658. What are you talking about? Why can't I understand a single word? Si Yuan was still young. She took a bite of the freshly cooked sausage and tilted her head to look at Zhou Ran. Then, she looked at Yun Jian and Ce with a face full of confusion. She looked cute and ignorant. I'm here. You don't need to understand these things. Zhou Ran's hand was very long, and his knuckles were unusually long. He reached out and rubbed Ce's head in front of her as he spoke. Oh. Being rubbed by Zhou Ran in front of her parents, Si Yuan's face instantly flushed red. She lowered her head and did not dare to look at Zhou Ran's face because she was too shy. Yun Jian tapped the table twice with her fingers. She frowned slightly. After a while, she suddenly said, I remember all the people I've met clearly. Tomorrow, I'll write down all the information of all the people I've met. Leave this to me. Yun Jian's memory was very good. This was not an exaggeration. A person would meet many people in a lifetime, but except for most of the important people, it was difficult to remember all the people who had appeared around you clearly. But Yun Jian could. Since the mysterious man must be someone close to her, she would be able to find out the identity of the mysterious man before he dealt with her. Then, she would dare to go back to 2004 and kill him before he became the mysterious man. Okay, Aunt Yunjian, I'll leave this matter to you. After you've sorted out all the information of the people you've met, I'll analyze it and narrow down the target. Zhou Yiran said to Yunjian. Yunjian was still a little surprised by Zhou Yiran's analytical ability. Although she was surprised, the more capable Zhou Yiran was, the more assured Yunjian and Ce would be to leave Siyuan in Zhou Yiran's care. TSK, Tisk. Yunjian and the other two were talking about important matters. The grease from Siyuan's barbecue splashed everywhere. In the end, it even splashed onto Zhou Yiran's clothes, who was sitting quite far away from her. Coincidentally, Zhou Yiran's clothes were splattered with grease from the skewers in Siyuan's hands. However, Zhou Yiran did not have the slightest intention of blaming Siyuan. On the contrary, he looked at Siyuan with doting eyes. At night, because Siyuan was scared, she kept pestering Yunjian to sleep with her. In the end, Ce dragged Zhou Yiran in front of Siyuan, while Ce hugged Yunjian's shoulders and went back to the room. I hate Daddy the most. Emph. Siyuan snorted and shouted at Ce's back. After giving Zhou Yiran one last look, she suddenly ran back into her room. Zhou Yiran touched his nose. He had no intention of going back to his room just because he was a gentleman. After 20 minutes, Zhou Yiran opened the door to Siyuan's bedroom. Siyuan had already showered, and the fragrance of a young girl continuously wafted into his nose. Zhou Yiran, why did you come in, you big baddie? Get out, get out! Siyuan was wearing pajamas. Her hands were on her waist, and she looked like she wanted to chase Zhou Yiran away. Your dad asked me to accompany you. Zhou Yiran smiled, looking like he was forced by Ce to come here to look for Siyuan. Siyuan was still a little scared. After all, she had suffered too much at night. Finally she pouted. Then you have to leave after I fall asleep. You have to. These words made Zhou Yiran's lips curl up again. He smiled devilishly. Okay. He would leave after she fell asleep. That was impossible. But he would not let Siyuan hear this. At this moment, Siyuan was shy because she did not wear underwear after showering. Like Yunjian, Siyuan's chest was very big. After wearing her pajamas at night, her chest was swollen. Afraid that Zhou Yiran would see her not wearing her pajamas, Siyuan quickly shrank back into her bed. At this moment, Zhou Yiran walked toward the bed. But just as Zhou Yiran took 2 steps towards this side, he suddenly stepped on something under his feet. The moment he stopped and hooked up the thing he stepped on, Siyuan's face suddenly turned from red to red. That was she. She had casually thrown her bra on the ground. She had forgotten to put it away. Chapter 2659. Siyuan was usually adorable and delicate, inheriting both Yunjian's stunning looks and Ce's chiseled features. She was a perfect girl who was both beautiful and adorable. However, Siyuan was not as beautiful as she looked. Usually, Siyuan did not allow anyone to enter her room, except for Yunjian. At night, she would go to her room and take off all her clothes. Then, she would go to the bathroom in her room to take a shower. She would put on her pajamas and lie on the bed to sleep. As for the underwear that she had taken off, Siyuan would just throw them on the bed and the floor. Because the floor was covered with a furry carpet, after entering Siyuan's room, one would usually walk barefoot on the furry carpet. The floor was not dirty. When Zhou Yiran suddenly entered the room, Siyuan did not think too much about it. She was only wearing her pajamas and did not wear any underwear. She was afraid that Zhou Yiran would see that she had slept with him, so she kept covering herself, and even crawled onto the bed. However, the moment she saw Zhou Yiran pick up the D-bra that she had just thrown on the floor, Siyuan's face turned so red that it was as if it had been cooked. Zhou Yiran stared at the red cartoon bra in his hand. He could not react to what this thing was. Don't touch my things. Give it back to me. Siyuan had already pounced over from the bed. She even forgot that she was not wearing any underwear. She reached out and grabbed the bra in Zhou Yiran's hand. However, because she pounced too fiercely, Siyuan threw herself into Zhou Yiran's arms. Zhou Yiran was only wearing a thin white t-shirt. When Siyuan threw herself into his embrace, he could even feel her breasts that were not wearing any undergarments. Ah! Get out, get out, get out! Si Yuan felt that her face was as hot as boiling water. She pushed Zhou Yiran and wanted him to leave. However, Zhou Yiran only then realized that the thing that he had just aroused was actually hers. Cough. I just returned the rental key to the landlord. There's nowhere to sleep nearby. Therefore, he would not leave this place even if he was beaten to death. Zhou Yiran's expression did not change as he played his tricks. That still. Si Yuan hugged her bra and wished she could stuff it into her arms, so that Zhou Yiran would never see it again. But before she could say no, her voice suddenly stopped. Because before Si Yuan could say anything, Zhou Yiran had already pulled her into his arms. Yuan, I missed you so much. I missed you for 3 years. 3 years ago, your brother asked me to hide my identity and secretly investigate the whereabouts of the mysterious man. He said that not seeing you was the best way to protect you. I really want to hug you. I want to comb your hair for you like before. I want to bathe you and feed you like when you were young. Yuan, I've waited for you for 3 years. Don't chase me away. These words were filled with deep affection. They were not the flowery words of a man to a woman, but words that came from the depths of his soul. Zhou Yiran and Si Yuan were childhood sweethearts, and had grown up together. Although Zhou Yiran had been thrown into the Amazon forest by Ce for a few years, he had gone through the training that Ce had given him, which was even crueler than the training that An Hun had given him. But for Si Yuan, Zhou Yiran was willing, because he wanted to protect her with his life. Si Yuan's eyes were wet when she heard Zhou Yiran's words. 3 years ago, Si Yuan was only 12 or 13 years old. They had bathed together and dressed for her when she was young. But at that time, Si Yuan also vaguely knew that someone had been secretly protecting her during the past 3 years. Si Yuan's hands involuntarily wrapped around Zhou Yiran's sturdy chest. She nodded heavily. Yes. The atmosphere was originally very good, and Si Yuan was almost moved to tears. However, Zhou Yiran, who was being hugged by Si Yuan, suddenly said, "Don't worry, I'm sorry. So Yuan, can I bathe you like before at night? Come. Wonderful book house." Chapter 2660. In 2016, when Yun Jian, Ce, and the rest perished together after the battle with the mysterious person, Si Yuan was only 12 or 13 years old. She was still a child. In Si Yuan's subconscious, she thought that Zhou Yiran had died in the battle to save her. Of course, this was not the main point. The main point was that before Si Yuan was 12 or 13 years old, Zhou Yiran had bathed her when she was still young. Nevertheless, that was when she was young. Between the ages of 12 and 15, Zhou Yiran had disappeared from Si Yuan's world for 3 whole years. After 3 years, Si Yuan had grown from a bean sprout to a curvy young lady with at least a D-cup. Many of the areas that she did not have when she was a little girl were now fully developed, especially her protruding breasts that were mesmerizing. Si Yuan was aware that she was no longer the bean sprout she used to be when she was young, so she blushed when Zhou Yiran suddenly said that. In the next second, Si Yuan pushed Zhou Yiran and shouted at Zhou Yiran with a red face. "What are you doing? Pervert." With that, she grabbed her bra, crawled under her blanket, and didn't say a word. Zhou Yiran scratched his head, recalling Si Yuan's blushing face when she pushed him. He smirked softly. In the end, Si Yuan did not let Zhou Yiran leave her room. It was just Si Yuan sleeping on the bed while Zhou Yiran slept on the floor. The next day, Yun Jian wrote down all the people she had met since she was reborn in Longmen City, including their behavior and what they had done, on a stack of white paper and handed it to Zhou Yiran. Yun Jian's handwriting was beautiful and elegant. She had written a stack of black words on the white paper, but not a single word was crooked due to too much writing. "Thank you, Auntie Yun Jian. I'll eliminate all the insignificant characters 3 days later and narrow down the target," Zhou Yiran said to Yun Jian after taking the stack of white paper. "Take good care of Yuan. However, Yun Jian took Si Yuan's hand away from Zhou Yiran's and personally placed Si Yuan's hand in Zhou Yiran's. "Mom, don't you want me anymore?" Hearing this, Si Yuan became anxious and quickly asked. "Follow him. No matter what happens, don't leave his side. When everything is over, I will always be by your side." Yun Jian was clearly only 19 years old. She was as young as a flower, but at this moment, She was speaking to Si Yuan in a very old and deep voice. Zhou Yiran rubbed Yunjian's head and solemnly promised her, "I will protect her with my life. See you in 3 days then." Yunjian nodded. 3 days later, she would come back to get the list of targets that Zhou Yiran had analyzed. After speaking, Yunjian and Si looked at each other and turned around. In less than 10 seconds, they disappeared in front of Zhou Yiran and Si. Si Yuan watched as her parents, whom she missed dearly, left again. She held Zhou Yiran's large hand tightly. No matter how reluctant she was in her heart, she endured it. "Zhou Yiran, you'll treat me well, right?" Si Yuan held Zhou Yiran's hand tightly. Her eyes were still looking in the direction that Yunjian and Si had left. Zhou Yiran's smile rose slightly. He suddenly grabbed Si Yuan's small hand and pulled her in the opposite direction. At the same time, he blurted out a sentence that made Si Yuan feel at ease. Okay. Naturally, he would do his best to love her well. Chapter 2661. After Yunjian and Si left, Si parted ways with Yunjian as well, agreeing to meet again 3 days later. If she was to do something, Si had to expand her influence. Yunjian, on the other hand, returned to Longmen City. Since Zhou Yiran said that the mysterious person was most likely from Longmen City, she would definitely be able to find some clues when she returned. It was a restaurant on Qinxing Road in Longmen City. The restaurant had just opened recently, and its business was booming. The staff was so busy that they took in many apprentices. Yunjian disguised herself as a normal person again, and applied for a job in the restaurant. She was now an intern in the restaurant. "And clear this table quickly. We're about to serve the next table of guests. What are you guys dawdling about for? Can't you see that the guests at the door have been waiting for a long time? Clear it up quickly." The manager of Teppan restaurant had his hands on his hips as he gestured at Yunjian and the employees in the restaurant. And she was Yunjian's alias. Yunjian's eyes flickered. She cleared the table quickly, so the manager, who was already high and mighty, liked Yunjian quite a bit. It was because Yunjian alone could finish a few people's work. The restaurant closed punctually at 10 o'clock at night. After closing the door, Yunjian changed out of her uniform and was ready to leave. "And let's go together." A girl's sweet voice came from behind them. It was a girl named Morong Ranran from the restaurant. Morong Ranran took good care of Yunjian. Yunjian nodded. She agreed, not because Morong Ranran took good care of her. Instead, "Do you know if anything major happened in Longmen City in the past year?" Yunjian was the first to ask. Morong Ranran was taken aback by Yunjian's question before she replied. "Anything major? I don't think so." There seems to be one." As she spoke, Morong Ranran turned to look at Yunjian in surprise and asked, "And you're interested in this?" Yunjian nodded. "Then you've got the wrong person. I know a few buddies and they're very familiar with the big and small incidents that happened in Longmen City in the past few years. Do you want me to bring you to them to ask?" Morong Ranran asked again. "Sure." Yunjian nodded. Since the mysterious person was from Longmen City and must be related to Yunjian somehow, they should be able to gain something from the recent incidents in Longmen City. After all, there had to be a way for the mysterious person to become a mysterious. It was impossible for him to abandon everything on Earth for no reason and head to Deity Continent to go after Yunjian and Ce. Morong Ranran did know a few hooligans in the society. Of course, they were just ordinary hooligans in the society. There were no underworld forces in this era. No matter how these hooligans were in the society, they would never commit murder. At most, they would just put on an act. As expected, when Morong Ranran brought Yunjian to meet the hooligans, the leader, who looked more like a hooligan but was not handsome, had to cross the railing of the road. There were no cars at this time. When he saw Yunjian looking over, he exerted force on his legs and jumped over the railing that was only 40 to 50 centimeters high, as if it was effortless. He even patted his pants before going to Yunjian. He did not look at Yunjian, but as if he wanted to act cool in front of Yunjian, he pulled a handful of his hair and spoke to Morong Ranran handsomely. "What's the matter? Sis Ranran, you're looking for me? Come. Wonderful book house." Chapter 2662. Morong Ranran knew the leader of the thugs. She nodded and spoke to him. Brother Zhenghong, my friend wants to know something. Can you tell her in detail? Zhang Zhenghong was a friend of Morong Ranran's brother. He specialized in collecting information, so the thugs behind him had heard about the happenings in the streets and alleys of Longmen City. I thought it was something big. Zhang Zhenghong turned his head to look at Yun Jian. Yun Jian's figure was perfect, but she looked ordinary because she was wearing a human skin mask. Zhang Zhenghong had taken a look at Yun Jian's figure from afar, and did not look at Yun Jian's face when he walked over to look cool. Now that he saw Yun Jian's face, which was ordinary, his desire vanished instantly. In spite of it, Zhang Zhenghong gave in to Morong Ranran's request. Of course, but I'll charge you, Zhang Zhenghong said bluntly. If it were a pretty girl, Zhang Zhenghong would not consider charging her. Brother Zhenghong, why are you like this? And she is my friend. Can you? Morong Ranran was stunned, and was about to speak when Zhang Zhenghong interrupted her. Yun Jian suddenly took out a stack of 100 yuan from her backpack, and handed it to him expressionlessly. Is this enough? Yes. Cough. Yes. Zhang Zhenghong quickly took the stack of 100 yuan from Yun Jian, and pressed it against his chest, asking Yun Jian, what do you want to know? What accidents have happened in Longmen City in the past year? I want details. Yun Jian maintained her cold expression. Cough. You said that there have been a lot of accidents in Longmen City in the past year. I remember that an old house in Shangtong village caught on fire this year, and someone died. There was also a big boss in Longmen City's suburbs who accidentally caused a gas explosion in his house. He had a lot of diesel in his house and the explosion added fuel to the fire and many people died. Zhang Zhenghong rested his chin on his hand as he spoke, deep in thought. As he spoke, he suddenly recalled something and slapped his head hard, telling Yun Jian, I remember now. Something big happened in Longmen City recently. It's strange, but it happened a year ago. After Zhang Zhenghong told Yun Jian the details, Yun Jian's eyes narrowed. The next second, she didn't even say goodbye to Morong Ranran as she turned around and ran away. In less than 3 seconds, the news was in front of everyone. What are you doing? Zhang Zhenghong was dumbfounded when he saw Yun Jian run away, still clutching the 100 yuan she gave him in his arms. You're giving it all to me just like that? Zhang Zhenghong looked at Morong Ranran in surprise. On the other hand, Yun Jian flew back to Hezhou City, the city where Si Yuan and Zhou Yiran had temporarily settled down. Once she arrived, Yun Jian dashed into Zhou Yiran's room, and spoke to him who was busy sorting out the information she had given him. Have you eliminated all the people who can't be the mysterious man? Zhou Yiran looked up and nodded, then passed a new set of information to Yun Jian. On this piece of paper was written all the people Yun Jian had met after she was reborn in Longmen City. She had eliminated those who could not be the mysterious man, leaving only those who were suspicious. Yun Jian scanned the paper from top to bottom. When she saw one of the names on the paper that overlapped with the main character of the incident she had heard, her eyes widened. She found it. This person must be the mysterious man's predecessor. This person was none other than M. Chapter 2663. Anti-Yun Jian? Zhou Yiran saw Yun Jian's pupils suddenly shrink. He raised his eyes, and there was a trace of inquiry in his expression. Take good care of Yuan. Remember, no matter what happens, whether the future will be changed, whether he and I can survive, you must promise me that you will take good care of Yuan. Yun Jian held the piece of paper that Zhou Yiran had sorted out with a few suspected mysterious people on it. She did not wait for Zhou Yiran to ask her a question. After saying this solemnly, she walked out. As soon as she opened the door to Zhou Yiran's room, she saw Si Yuan holding a big rabbit doll. She rubbed her eyes and looked at Yun Jian. Mommy, where are you going? Si Yuan's big eyes blinked. They were very beautiful. It seemed that she had just woken up. Although Si Yuan was already 15 or 16 years old, she still maintained the innocence of a child. There were many things in the adult world that she did not understand. She needed to be protected. Follow him and don't run around. Yunjian pulled Si Yuan in front of Zhou Ran and said sternly. After saying this, Yunjian lifted her feet and walked out of the door. Just as she took 2 steps, she felt that her clothes were tightly grasped by someone. Yunjian's deep eyes narrowed again. She turned her head slightly and saw that Si Yuan was tightly grasping her clothes. She looked like she would not let go no matter what. Yunjian was about to reprimand her, but she suddenly saw a trace of moisture flash across Si Yuan's eyes. Her heart tightened. 3 years ago, Mommy, you said this. I have been waiting for you at home, but all I got was the news that you and Daddy would never return to my side. Those days were undoubtedly Si Yuan's nightmares for the rest of her life. Si Yuan's hand tightly grasped Yunjian's clothes. Her 5 fingers were clasped very tightly. Because she was grasping Yunjian's clothes so tightly, Si Yuan's knuckles turned white. She shook up and down and trembled crazily. That kind of fear was engraved into Si Yuan's soul, and she would never forget it. Yunjian was silent. After 10 seconds of dead silence, her other hand grabbed Si Yuan's small hand that was clutching the hem of her clothes. Then he forcefully pulled away Si Yuan's small hand, which was gripping the hem of his shirt so tightly that her knuckles had turned white. I will definitely come back alive. After she finished speaking, Yunjian pushed Si Yuan into Zhou Ran's arms and closed the door behind her. Si Yuan's sudden loud cries were completely shut behind the door. Yunjian took one last look. Zhou Ran hugged Si Yuan and did not let her rush out. Turning around, Yunjian left without looking back. She swore that this time, she would come back alive. For the child, for the parents, and most importantly, for himself. At the entrance of the space-time forest, Yunjian could see Ce and Yuanxing, who were standing not too far away from her from afar. She paused for a moment before she walked up against the wind. Yuanjin was standing at the front. Seeing Yunjian walking towards them, he asked Yunjian softly, "Are you sure?" "Yes." Yunjian nodded calmly. "Let's go." Ce walked over and held Yunjian's hand. His large palm interlocked with Yunjian's fingers. He pulled Yunjian and walked towards the entrance of the forest of time and space. They were supposed to find the mystery man in 2019, but it seemed like there was no need for that now. Since they had already found the mystery man's identity, all they had to do was to return to 2004 before everything started and kill the mystery man, who was still an ordinary person. Then none of this would have happened. However, killing the mystery man who was still an ordinary person would change the laws of time and space. For example, if they killed the mystery man of the past, the mystery man in the future would not find the way to the mysterious mainland, and the sorcerer goddess of Yulong mainland, and the Sir God of Deity mainland would not have to come to Earth. Then, the sorcerer goddess would grow into the #1 international secret agent, slaying God, and become acquainted with everyone she met on Earth would not have happened. This was indeed the simplest method, but at the same time, it was also the most difficult. This was because when the mystery man of the past was killed, time and space would change. Perhaps Yunjian, Qin Yiru, Gejunjian, Yun-Yi, and the rest would never know each other again. As the sorcerer goddess, Yunjian would not have come to Earth if it were not for the mystery man. While she lived, she would lose everything she once had. However, if she killed Siluo Lengmei Di Lin, snake, lizard, tiger, leopard, and the rest from the future world, then she, Yunjian, would rather change the chaotic history, kill the mystery man, and return to the past where none of them knew each other. Everyone take care. Chapter 2664. Without the mystery man, it meant that Yunjian and Ce would not come to Earth, nor would they be close to anyone they knew on Earth. Killing the mystery man before he became a mystery man meant that they had returned to the starting point before anything had begun. The mystery man had messed up time and space, allowing them to meet. If Yunjian restored time and space to the starting point, everything would not have started. The year 2004. Walking in an era that was completely different from 2019, where there were no mobile phones and cars were everywhere, Yunjian felt conflicted. Lifting her hand to look at the fiery red sun in the sky, it was as if she was looking at the day when she had just been reborn in Longmen City. The sky was as bright and sunny as it was today. Yunjian looked at the fiery red sun through her slender hand. 3 seconds later, a pair of palms that were longer and more perfect than Yun Jian's held her hand. Xiao Jian, no matter where you are in the future, I'll always be with you. He knew her hesitation. Whether it was as the king of sorcerer god of Yulong mainland or slaying god, the top secret agent in the international ranking, Yun Jian was the king of kings. However, as a king, she craved kinship and was satisfied with everything she had now. To let go of everything and return to her past life was no doubt a heavy blow to Yun Jian. Si Yi's words struck a chord in Yun Jian. Her hand unconsciously clasped his 5 fingers behind hers. Whether it was her as the sorcerer god or slaying god, he would always be by her side. She would never be alone. According to the intel, it's here. Yun Jian was standing in a corner of an open space, her gaze fixed ahead. Ce and Yuan Xing stood beside her. 3 minutes later, the mystery man who had yet to become a mystery man would pass by here. As long as the mystery man was killed, everything would be over. Yuan Xing nodded from the side. Time was ticking away, second by second. 3 minutes later, a silhouette suddenly appeared at a corner of the open space. That was, Yun Jian licked her lips and clenched the butterfly knife in her hand. However, just as she was about to attack in the next second, a powerful barrier suddenly lit up around her. That powerful barrier seemed to have been premeditated as it surrounded the area, including where Yun Jian and Ce were. This barrier. We've been tricked. Yuan Xing's deep eyes fiercely moved as he spoke with a somewhat gloomy expression. This barrier must have been set up a long time ago, just by looking at its thickness and sturdiness. Yuan Xing spoke again. After he finished, his pupils constricted slightly. In the next second, Yuan Jing's eyes widened, and he said something that made Yun Jian and Ce frown. Looks like he has already planned this out. It seemed that the mysterious man had already planned to have a decisive battle with Yun Jian and the others here. In the future world, the mysterious man and Yun Jian's group perished together in 2016. But now, it had been brought forward by 12 years. Yun Jian's eyes were terrifyingly deep at this moment. Within the barrier, it could be a smoky battlefield. However, outside the barrier, ordinary people could not see the world within the barrier. That was the power of the barrier. At this moment, a large group of people in black robes suddenly appeared around them. All of them were dressed in black robes, revealing only a pair of dark eyes. However, that was not the point. The point was that after the appearance of this group of people in black robes, everyone who had anything to do with Yun Jian suddenly appeared within the barrier out of thin air. Yes, everyone. Including Yun Jian's biological parents when she was slaying God, Zhou Ran's family, and Chapter 2665. Not to mention Zhou Ran's family, Zhou Ran, Yun Mu, and Yun and I. Gu Junjian, Qin Yiru, Xinjiang Town's Lin Mingyu, Yuaning Jun, Yun Jian's former father, Yun Gang, Zhang Jifan, Qin Yiru's mother's family, Zhang Meihua, Qin Junlan and the rest. Everyone had suddenly appeared here. However, there were far more people who had suddenly appeared. Everyone from Xinjiang Town's basketball team, Lu Fian, Sichu Zhang Xiaofeng, Chen Sini, Ling Yichen, and even Mad Dragon Di Lin, Leng Mei and the rest. Everyone who Yun Jian had met had suddenly been transported here. Everyone. Even Bailey Yan and the Lord from Deity Continent, and the witch tribe from Yulong mainland. Those who were still alive and whom Yun Jian had met had all gathered here. There were at least a few thousand of them. Yun Jian's eyes darkened fiercely at this moment. She had planned to quietly kill the mysterious person who had yet to become a mysterious person, and return everything to square one. However, the mysterious person had set up a barrier before Yun Jian made her move. He had even transported all the people who Yun Jian had met here from all over the world using the transportation formation. He had really come prepared. Sister, where is this place? Yun Jian held her head and shook it, looking at Yun Jian in bewilderment. Glancing around, she did not even know where she was now. Why were we suddenly sent here? No one knew what had happened. Yun Mu was Yun Jian's younger sister when she was slaying God in her previous life. At this moment, Yun Mu was scratching her short hair, looking confused. Yun Jian, what are you doing? Haven't you done enough to me? Lin Mingyu, whom she had first met in Xinjiang town, had her arms crossed in front of her chest. When she saw Yun Jian, whom she had not seen for a long time, she was so scared that she kept retreating. When Yuan Yingjun saw the increasingly beautiful Yun Jian, a trace of regret flashed through his eyes. However, he swallowed a few mouthfuls of saliva. When he saw Ce, he took a step back and did not dare to step forward. He still remembered the pain he had suffered. The members of the martial arts club in Jiangqing City, Mo Bufan and the others, as well as Kai Huiling, who had always regarded Yun Jian as her mortal enemy. Everyone who had met Yun Jian before was present. Yun Jian's frown deepened. What on earth did the mysterious man want to do? Just as everyone's hearts trembled, a burst of laughter rang out from the top of the barrier. Ha ha ha. Ha ha. Welcome to my world. As soon as he finished speaking, a person dressed in a black robe with only a pair of pitch-black eyes that were filled with hatred suddenly appeared in front of everyone. The mysterious man. The mysterious man, who had been defeated by Yun Jian and Ce last time, abandoned his body and tore open his soul to run away, once again stood in front of Yun Jian and Ce. The mysterious man who suddenly appeared glanced around and glanced at all the people who were involved in it. In the next second he laughed again. You must be very surprised. Why are you here? This is all thanks to her. It's time to get ready to end this boring game. You will all become the souls of the dead under my sword. After the mysterious man appeared, his sharp and harsh voice pierced the ears of everyone present. When everyone heard this, their hearts trembled with fear. In spite of it, they could all tell that they were here because of Yun Jian. Just as everyone turned to look at Yun Jian's furrowed brows slowly relaxed. She looked at the mysterious man, her red arc moving slightly. The next second, she chuckled and suddenly spoke coldly, directly revealing the mysterious man's identity. I used to treat you as my senior, the best captain, the leader of the team, but you disappointed me too much. The mysterious man was none other than the leader of Team Monarch who had gone through thick and thin with Yun Jian and the others to reach where they were today through countless trials and tribulations. He had stood resolutely in front of them and shielded them from the storm. Lu Shiyan. M. Chapter 2666. The leader of Team Monarch, Lu Shiyan. Since Yun Jian was reborn in Longmen City and was chosen by Gu Junjian to be a member of Team Monarch, Lu Shiyan had been fulfilling his duty as the leader. He was steady, aloof from worldly affairs, and did not compete with others for fame or benefits. He was an excellent leader. However, it was such a person who had been secretly targeting Yun Jian. From the time Yun Jian broke up the sorcerer goddess and the deity lord when she was still the sorcerer goddess, to the kidnapping of Xiao Yunju when Yun Jian became slaying god, to the manic pursuit of Yun Jian and Ce, to the end where he tricked Yun Jian into almost having a miscarriage when Yun Jian was pregnant. These two seemingly unrelated people were actually the same person. Yun Jian was equally stunned when she found out the truth about this unexpected turn of events. Yun Jian, what senior and leader? Why are we here all of a sudden? Has the world turned into a fantasy? You almost scared me just now. I've just showered at home. If it was a minute earlier, I would have come here naked. Chu Ning glanced around and walked over with a look of surprise. She even covered her clothes with her hands, looking as if she had no idea what was going on. The people around them were the same. Those who had boasted in front of Yun Jian, or those who had offended and been suppressed by Yun Jian, or those who had received help from Yun Jian, were baffled at first before they asked around in shock what was going on. Since they did not know what was going on, the hubbub of thousands of people around them was as noisy as a large market when their voices overlapped. Yun Jian did not respond to Chu Ning. Everyone in Team Monarch, including Chu Ning, except Lu Shiyan, looked at Yun Jian in confusion. Yun Jian, on the other hand, leaped lightly in front of thousands of people and landed on a pile of cement pipes that were as big as 3 schools in the sky. Behind her was a group of thousands of ordinary people who had come into contact with Yun Jian who had been swept into the incident. In front of her was the mysterious man and his subordinates. Yun Jian stood high on the pile of cement pipes, her gaze cold and intimidating. Among the crowd, Everyone who had been in contact with Yunjian, be it good or bad, stopped talking at this moment. This magical teleportation had sent them here all of a sudden. They were surrounded by a barrier and could not walk out. Those who did not know what was going on thought that it was amusing. Yunmu, what's going on? Zhouqiang, Mu Zishi, Wan Yuyu, Jingcheng, and the rest could not help coming over to ask Yunjian's younger sister, Yunmu. I don't know. Yunmu's eyes were fixed on Yunjian's, who was standing on the cement pipes. Her instincts told her that Yunjian, her sister whom she had lost contact with for more than a decade, must be hiding some shocking secret. And this secret was very likely to be completely revealed today. However, Yunmu was not the only one who had this thought. After Yunjian was reborn in Longmen City, she had been in contact with many people. Those who had been in contact with Yunjian were all shocked and bewildered by what was happening before them. While everyone was pondering, Yunjian, who was standing on the cement pipe, glanced at the mysterious person with a sharp gaze. She used the same words that slaying god and sorcerer goddess had always been arrogant and never changed as she spoke coldly and haughtily in front of everyone. You're right. Do you think that you can threaten me by dragging them into our battlefield? Today, I'll kill you here even if you use 10,000 times the potion or 10 million times the potion. I swear in the name of Yulong Mainland's daughter, the sorcerer goddess, the former god of war of Yulong Mainland, that the only one who will die here today will be you, Lu Shiyin. Calm. Wonderful book house. Chapter 2667. It didn't matter why Lu Shiyin changed from an ordinary person to a mysterious person who wanted to kill her. Yunjian had said that she would never accept any betrayal, no matter who it was. Anyone who betrayed Yunjian would be killed. Anyone who offended her would be killed as an example to others. Even if it was her closest kin, it would still be the same. She, Yunjian, was not a kind person, let alone being compared to a good person. Bloodthirsty was the king. Killing, war and hegemony, this was the world that belonged to her. Because in such a world, she could find the value of her life. She was the king, and always had been. She would not allow anyone to stand in front of her and be arrogant. If there was, she would kill. She was the king Yunjian. No matter what she did or did, her name was Yunjian. Lu Shiyin? Captain? What's going on? When Chu Ning and the others heard Yunjian's words, they suddenly trembled. Even an idiot could tell that Yunjian and the mysterious person who was shrouded in a black robe had a blood feud of, either you die or I live. So, where did the captain go? Chu Xiangnan, with his crooked brain, could not figure it out for a while. Everyone was puzzled. At this time, the mysterious person standing in front of Yunjian stopped pretending. He tore off the black robe that wrapped around his body and had not shown it to anyone for so many years, revealing a familiar yet unfamiliar face. The mysterious person was indeed Lu Shiyin, but compared to the current Lu Shiyin in his 20s, he was from the future and had a more mature look. His middle-aged face was not bad-looking, and it was a sharp contrast to the youthful Lu Shiyin. The mysterious person from the future, Lu Shiyin, looked more mature and older than the Lu Shiyin of the present world. But his face was also a little darker. It was the kind of dark and gloomy feeling that came from his glabella. One thing was certain, Lu Shiyin in 2004 had not become the mysterious person who would be unpardonably evil in the future. The bad was only him in the future. This made Yunjian want to find out what Lu Shiyin had encountered in the future. Captain? No. Isn't that Captain? He looks older than Captain. The members of Team Monarch were horrified when they saw the mysterious person's face. Everyone present, including Yunjian, Zhouqiang, Mu Zishi, Zhang Meihua and the rest of Longmen City, Mo Bufan and the rest of the University of River Town students, was only curious about one thing. Why did Yunjian call herself the witch goddess of Yulong Mainland? However, before anyone could think too much about it, the mysterious man took a big step forward. He raised his hand and a few large bottles of 10,000-fold potion appeared in his hand. Before anyone could react, he immediately swallowed it. Don't talk nonsense, come on. Let me see how strong you are to challenge me alone. The mysterious man walked towards Yunjian with a gloomy face. At some point, Ce and Yunjian were standing side by side on the cement pipe. Ce held Yunjian's hand tightly and refused to let go. However, just as the mysterious man was walking towards them, a loud voice suddenly came from the crowd. Yunjian isn't alone. I, Zhang Jifan, have chosen to follow her. I'll be Yunjian's subordinate for the rest of my life. Until death do us part. It's because I'm her sturdiest shield. The one who spoke was the CEO of New Cruise, Zhang Jifan, who was managing Yunjian's company. Zhang Jifan stood behind Yunjian after he finished speaking. Among the thousands of people present, someone saw Zhang Jifan's face and recognized Zhang Jifan at once. Zhang Jifan. New Cruise's CEO Zhang Jifan is Yunjian's subordinate. Doesn't that mean Yunjian is New Cruise's director? Someone exclaimed in the crowd. Those who were unaware of Yunjian's identity, and those who were aware of Yunjian's identity were stunned. New Cruise. They had already promoted the company to the entire world, becoming Z Nation's pioneer, and an international brand that had a firm foothold in the international arena. That's right. The proudest thing that I, Su Zetian, have done in my life is to follow Yunjian. Falcon Hall is glorious because of her. I'll forever follow that woman named Luosha. I'll never change. After Zhang Jifan stepped forward, a majestic and determined voice rang out again. The crowd watched as another figure walked out from the crowd. This person had the aura of a mafia boss. However, before Yunjian he was willing to show weakness. Su Zetian, the manager of Z Nation's biggest mafia boss, Luosha. The crowd was once again startled. Some people even forgot about the battle in front of them. They used the most panicked tone in their lives to shout out loud, a voice that reverberated throughout the entire area and shook everyone present. New Cruise. Falcon Hall. Shi Yunjian is New Cruise's director and Falcon Hall's legendary boss, Luosha. M. Chapter 2668. Unwavering even in death. Unwavering even in death. What a firm and determined voice it was. Zhang Jifan and Su Zetian. One was an elite who dominated the global market in the legal world. The other was an eagle who dominated the world in the mafia world. Both of them were dragons among men who had almost monopolized country Z's economy. They followed Yunjian with such determination and unyielding aura that they swore to follow Yunjian to their deaths. In such a dangerous situation, there was no need for Yunjian to order them as their superiors. They stepped forward and stood on the same side as Yunjian. This was no longer a matter of absolute obedience between superiors and subordinates. Yunjian's capability and capital had made these two elites who stood at the pinnacle of the pyramid in the eyes of outsiders to obey her orders to their deaths. It was an absolute obedience that came from the bottom of their hearts, from the depths of their souls. They did not need any instructions and would never back down when Yunjian was in trouble. The courage to charge forward. Who was she, Yunjian? How could she make these two elites who stood at the pinnacle of the pyramid, who had monopolized both the legal and illegal worlds in country Z, submit to her? Slaying Luo, the chairman of New Cruise and the boss of the mafia's Falcon Hall. She. The old lady who held a grudge against Zhou Ran for not being able to protect her son because Zhou Ran had given birth to Yunjian, who had yet to be reborn, as well as her younger daughter, Yun Sheng, and had accidentally lost her son, Yun Zhu, whom she had painstakingly given birth to. She clutched her chest, almost suffocating from the shock. Zhou Ran, Yin and I, Yin Mu, Zhou Ran, and everyone else who was present. Even Zhang Meihua and the others from Longmen City were glaring at Yunjian with bulging eyes, their faces turning purple from fright. Everyone, including those who had failed to lay a hand on Yunjian, and were retaliated against by Yunjian instead, had their eyes wide open. All of them widened their eyes in shock. While they were terrified of Yunjian's identity, they were reminded of the terrifying things they had said or done to her in the past. If she were to really attack them, she would only need to move a finger. Besides, Yunjian was only 19 years old. What kind of environment did such a legendary woman who could be regarded as a miracle of the world grow up in? Before they could recover from their shock, the old man chuckled. The mysterious man cackled as if he already knew Yunjian's identity. He took another step forward and could not help sneering at Zhang Jifan and Su Zetian's foolish behavior. If Zhang Jifan's new cruise and Su Zetian's Falcon Hall, then Yunjian's. Then you're a man. At this moment, an enchanting woman suddenly walked out from the crowd. This enchanting woman twisted her body as she walked out from the crowd and arrived in front of the crowd. The person who had arrived was none other than the Demoness. Ever since you saved me, Temptress, and handed Rongyao Company over to me to manage, I've been with you for so many years. I'm considered your senior. You should add me to the list of people who stand behind you. Temptress crossed her arms and said those words in a calm voice that shocked everyone. The president of Rongyao Company, Temptress. That meant Rongyao Company, one of the top 10 international corporations in the world, the richest Rongyao company in the world, is Yunjian's too. When someone heard this, he used a voice that was close to a roar to shout out this sentence. Not only that, far more than that, other than New Cruise and Falcon Hall, and Rongyao Company, ordinary people could not even touch a corner of a company founded by Yunjian in their lifetime. But Yunjian had founded so many top international companies one after another. Could it be that she wasn't human? Chapter 2669. After Zhang Jifan, Su Zetian, and Seductress stepped forward, all the subordinates who were with Zhang Jifan, Su Zetian, and Seductress also stepped forward. At this moment Yunjian, who was standing on the cement pipe, seemed to be the master of all things. The group of people below her was completely subdued. The crowd was so quiet that even the sound of a needle falling to the ground could be heard clearly. Everyone looked at Yunjian, who was standing on the cement pipe, as if she was standing at the top of a pyramid. She was like the god of death, who was born to rule over all living things, looking down on everyone. Haha. Foolish. For a woman, for a mere woman, you bunch of fools, I must make you regret it. When the mysterious man saw Zhang Jifan and the others step forward to protect Yunjian, his eyes seemed to recall a certain despair that he had encountered in the past. His expression began to change drastically, and his eyes began to tremble violently. As he shouted these words, the mysterious man suddenly raised his hand, and a strong wave of spiritual energy burst out from between his fingers. After drinking several bottles of the 10,000-fold potion, the mysterious man's body was greatly damaged after the effects of the potion wore off. However, he did not seem to care about this at all. The spiritual energy gathered crazily from the mysterious man's hands, and it actually bypassed Yunjian and Ce to attack Zhang Jifan, Su Zetian, and Seductress, who were standing behind Yunjian. After drinking several bottles of the 10,000-fold potion, the mysterious man's strength had naturally reached the peak of perfection. However, just as the spiritual energy was about to collide with Zhang Jifan and the others, Yunjian suddenly raised her hand. In front of the thousands of people who were completely dumbfounded, Yunjian suddenly raised her hand. She gathered a wave of spiritual energy from her fingertips, and it collided with the spiritual energy that the mysterious man was using to attack Zhang Jifan and the others. Chi bang bang bang. The two powerful spiritual forces collided with each other, and even the cement on the ground was directly shaken, until cracks appeared one after another. At the gathering point of the spiritual energy, where the two spiritual energies collided and cancelled each other out, a huge crater was created by the collision of the two spiritual energies. This scene shocked everyone present. With Yin Mu and the others in the lead, their faces turned pale with fright. What kind of power is this? This was illogical. This doesn't make sense. A scientist that Yunjian had met before shook his head and retreated. In the end, he was so scared that he sat down on the ground. No one at the scene had a better reaction than this scientific researcher. Chi. At this moment, outside the barrier, someone opened a passage to enter the barrier and barged in. Usually it was easy to get in but difficult to get out. As long as one had a bit of spiritual energy, they would be able to enter the enchantment, but to get out was harder than ascending to the heavens. Yunjian turned sideways. At this moment, Yunmu, Zhou ran, and the others suddenly saw a few people who had barged in from outside the barrier. They ran to Yunjian's back and lowered their heads in submission. When they saw the people walking to Yunjian's back and bowing to Yunjian like the three witches, Yunmu and everyone else present had already sensed that Yunjian was probably someone from a completely different world from them. Whether it was the strange spiritual energy that she had unleashed, or the series of identities that she had revealed, they were all warning Yunjian that the world she lived in was something that no one present could touch. She stood at a height that no one could ever reach. However, what Yunmu and the others did not expect was that the group of people who had just entered the barrier walked to Yunjian's back, bowed their heads, and suddenly announced their names one by one. They shouted at Yunjian with unwavering determination, causing everyone present to be dumbfounded and flabbergasted. Kosha Mercenaries Elder Qingyu. Kosha Mercenaries Elder Snake. Lizard. Kosha Mercenaries Elder Tiger Bao. Kosha Mercenaries Assassination Team Leader Gui Lian. Kosha Mercenaries Reconnaissance Team Leader Gui Yan. Kosha Mercenaries Intelligence Team Leader Diani. We pledge our lives to pursue the boss. We advance and retreat together. Chapter 2670. The higher-ups of the Kosha mercenaries were all there. All of them stood behind Yunjian without hesitation, and swore a blood oath that shook the heavens. It was all thanks to Yunjian that they were able to achieve what they had today. If Yunjian was gone one day, their future would cease to exist as well. That deafening howl of determination caused an uproar among everyone present. Yunmu and the rest were stunned when they heard it. Gu Junjian, Qin Yiru, and the rest felt an inexplicable sense of pride when they heard it. Hearing that, Team Monarch, T-Rex Best Squad, and the rest felt a sense of awe and delusion ignite in their hearts. Those who once had all sorts of prejudices and conflicts against Yunjian, led by Lin Mingyu, were now looking at her as if she was a stranger. They never thought that Yunjian would stand at the top of the crowd one day, looking at her as if she was out of their reach. Kosha Mercenaries. The mercenary group that was on par with the #1 international assassin organization, and Hun Group. Yunjian was the Kosha mercenaries' boss. Legend had it that she came and went without a trace. She was the #1 international secret agent on the secret agent leaderboard, slaying God. At that moment, the crowd was not only shocked by the actions of the higher-ups of the Kosha mercenaries, they were also shocked by the revelation of Yunjian's identity by the higher-ups of the Kosha mercenaries. Yunjian. Haze. Gu. 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 Gusha. Those who once disliked Yunjian now had frightening expressions on their faces. They could not even complete a sentence at that moment. This child was kidnapped when she was young. Could she have been kidnapped to become an assassin? My child. How much have you suffered? Zhou Ran suddenly covered her face when she learned the truth. She squatted down and started crying secretly. Yunmu looked at Yunjian, who stood above the crowd, and had an indescribable feeling. She felt as if she was very far away from Yunjian, her biological sister. Everyone present was in a state of shock. This was because the person standing in front of them was not just a 19-year-old girl, nor was she the queen of both the underworld and the underworld of Z country. He wasn't just the chairman of a multinational corporation. She was still the ruler of the world. The legendary slaying god who was so powerful that it made people tremble in fear. Sorcerer God. How can I, Lan Su, not be by your side? 1,000 years ago, you were in charge of the Wu clan. You led our Yulong continent from a low-level continent that could be humiliated by other continents to the throne of the #1 continent among thousands of continents. I have always followed you. I am the only one by your side. Now that I've seen with my own eyes that so many people are willing to stand behind you, I'm happy for you. Whether it was 1,000 years ago or today, Lan Su has followed you for tens of thousands of years. He has fought alongside you and killed countless experts of the continent. I once swore that no matter when or where, no matter what kind of situation I am in, Lan Su, the daughter of the Wu clan, will always be the first person behind you. Please don't abandon me, Sorcerer God. It was Lan Su who had used his spiritual power to open the barrier passage, and led the Kosha mercenaries into the barrier. At this moment, Lan Su spoke from the side as he walked slowly toward them. Every sentence was imprinted in everyone's ears. They did not understand what Lan Su meant by 1,000 years ago, and Yulong continent. However, every sentence that came out of Lan Su's mouth stirred up everyone's emotions. Every sentence seemed to remind them of the time when the sorcerer god had only Lan Su by his side. They fought alone against the experts of various continents and finally led Yulong continent to the #1 continent among thousands of continents. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 2671. She, Lan Su, would have stood behind Yun Jian without hesitation 1,000 years ago. Today, 1,000 years later, even though she had her own family, her intention to follow Yun Jian would never change. At this moment, Yun Jian had turned slightly and looked at the people standing behind her. She had thought that she was alone from the beginning to the end, but when she looked back, she suddenly realized that there were so many people standing behind her. Yun Jian's slightly furrowed eyebrows were gently smoothed out. She suddenly held the hand of the man standing beside her, and drew a red arc that made the world lose its color. Lu Shiyan, no matter how many bottles of 10,000 times elixir you drink, the people standing behind you will always be puppets. But the people standing behind me are people who are worthy of my life to protect them. It seems that the only person who will fight alone will be you. Yun Jian glanced sideways at the mysterious man with a sneer and a hint of mockery on her lips. Yes, no matter how many black-robed men stood behind the mysterious man, Lu Shiyan, those black-robed men were just puppets who would only obey the mysterious man's orders. From the moment he did this series of things, he had already been possessed by the devil, and there was no turning back. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. The mysterious man, who was walking towards Yun Jian and Ce, finally stopped. He was halfway there when he suddenly stopped. Who said so? Who said that I'm fighting alone? This group of puppets without consciousness can only be my subordinates. And in this world, the only one who will never betray me is yourself. Come out. I'm in my 20s. Ha ha ha. Let's rule this world together. Together, let's completely destroy this group of damned people from this world. The earth, the 10,000 continents, the gods' continent, they're all mine. All mine. The mysterious man had reached the point of madness. Yun Jian's words had deeply pierced his heart. When the word betrayal was mentioned, his pitch-black eyes twisted fiercely. The only one who will never betray me is myself. Yun Jian's eyes twitched fiercely. She subconsciously looked behind the mysterious man, and at the periphery of the boundary, he saw a tall and slender man with regular facial features, who was as mature and steady as ever, walking over. It was Lu Shiyan. In 2004, Lu Shiyan was in his 20s. Unlike the mysterious man from the future, Lu Shiyan in 2004 obviously had not experienced any painful past. However, the moment he walked over, his brows furrowed slightly. There was a trace of seriousness on his face, but it quickly disappeared. Captain. Why is he standing together with the bad guy? No, they are the same person. The one who has been going against Yun Jian is the captain. Chu Ning watched from afar as Lu Shiyan, the leader of Team Monarch, the mature and steady leader of the organization, walked to the mysterious man's side. Chu Ning's heart skipped a beat when she saw this. She seemed to be unable to accept the reality in front of her. She took a big step back and suddenly sat on the ground. The rest of Team Monarch did not fare any better. Lu Shiyan in 2004 still had the same feeling when he was with Yun Jian and the others. However, when he walked to the mysterious man's side, his face suddenly revealed the same ferocious expression as the mysterious man. He looked at everyone and finally fixed his eyes on Yun Jian. You didn't expect this, did you? The person you've been looking for is actually someone close to you. What a pity. Before you realized that the mysterious man was me and wanted to kill me, I was saved by my future self. Chapter 2672. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, Campus Rebirth. The Strongest Female Secret Agent, Chapter 2672. The war begins, the battlefield, Finale 1 Part 2. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 2673. Ha ha. Sir God, it turns out that you're only this tough. Is it because my 10,000X potion is too powerful? Or is it because you're too weak? Ha. The mysterious man retracted his spiritual power. When he saw a trace of blood flowing from the corner of Siyi's mouth, he burst into laughter. The limit of the 10,000X potion was 12 bottles. If he drank any more, he would die in front of everyone, given his physique. Lu Shiyan's current physique was only suitable for 3 bottles of the 10,000X potion. If Lu Shiyan drank any more, he would die on the spot. Moreover, the mysterious man had drunk the 10,000X potion so many times that he had accumulated many side effects in his body. This time he drank 10 bottles of the 10,000X potion at once. Even if the mysterious man survived the battle, he would not be able to make any progress in his spiritual power in the future. For this reason, the mysterious man would have to pay a higher price. Lu Shiyan was forced to drink 3 bottles of the 10,000X potion by the mysterious man, so he would have to pay the price for it. At this moment, the mysterious man was mocking Ce in his most domineering voice. I can't believe you were injured by me. Ha. His laughter was louder and louder, as if it could break the sky. However, as he laughed, the mysterious man's voice suddenly came to an abrupt stop. A mouthful of blood suddenly spurted from the mysterious man's nose and mouth. He took 2 big steps back, and was obviously seriously injured by Ce. It took more than 10 bottles of the 10,000X potion to tie with Ce. Ah. The mysterious man howled as he spat out blood. Wiping away the blood from his mouth, he was about to gather his spiritual energy to fight Yunjian and Ce again when the mysterious man was interrupted. Suddenly, he saw Yunjian take out 3 magical weapons: a sandalwood box, a wooden fan, and a wooden hairpin. These 3 divine artifacts exuded a powerful spiritual energy that was so dense that it could pierce through the sky. In front of thousands of people, Yunjian slashed her wrist to check her pulse with the wooden hairpin. Before Ce could react to stop her, she placed the wooden fan in the sandalwood box and drained the blood that gushed out into the box like she was letting it out. That move of his was clean and efficient, without the slightest bit of mercy. She did not frown the whole time. Yunjian's action of cutting her wrist and letting blood surprised everyone. At this moment, the blood that flowed through the wooden hairpin into the sandalwood box and the wooden fan suddenly emitted a red light as bright as the sun in the sky. The red light was like an infrared ray that pierced through the sky, piercing the eyes of everyone present, and causing them to close their eyes involuntarily. So did the mysterious man. When the red light flashed, all of the spiritual power in the wooden hairpin and the sandalwood box gathered into the wooden fan in front of everyone's eyes. The wooden fan, the fan, the box, 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 the hairpin, the box, the box, the box, and the box. However, it did not have a blade. Yunjian was delighted. She immediately took out the God-vanquishing blade from her waist. Just as she was about to put the blade of the God-vanquishing blade into the bladeless butterfly knife formed by the 3 magical weapons, Ce did not even care about the blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. He frowned and grabbed Yunjian's bleeding wrist. The next second, he tore open the corner of his shirt and bandaged her wound as fast as he could with a dark face. If they were not fighting the mysterious man, he would have reprimanded Yunjian in front of everyone for not taking care of her own body. Yunjian could clearly see that Ciyi's handsome face was filled with unspeakable heartache. Chapter 2674. At this moment, Yunjian had already assembled the butterfly knife from the 3 magical weapons, and the god-slaying blade into her hands. Without much hesitation or even greeting Ce, she dashed towards the mysterious man with the butterfly knife in her hand. Chi! The butterfly knife emitted a sharp sound as it passed through the air. Ce had already anticipated Yunjian's move. He quickly flashed in front of Yunjian. Without even speaking to Yunjian, he cooperated with Yunjian and kicked the mysterious man's abdomen in the distance. At this moment, the mysterious man's subordinates were already fighting with Yunjian's subordinates. Those who were involved in the incident and didn't have the slightest strength retreated to the edge of the boundary where they couldn't retreat any further. They were all trembling, but they didn't dare to say a word, for fear that they would be discovered and killed by the mysterious man or his subordinates. On the other hand, the mysterious man was violently shaken back a few steps after being kicked by Ce. Before he could react, Ce turned sideways and Yunjian, who was behind him, kicked the butterfly knife in the air. She cooperated well with Ce and stabbed towards the mysterious man. Bang bang bang. The mysterious man blocked Yunjian's god-slaying blade with his arms. In an instant, he was forced to retreat a few steps. Just as he steadied himself, the mysterious man suddenly felt blood spurting out from his hands that had been cut by Yunjian. The next moment, an earth-shattering scream reverberated through the sky. Ah, ah, ah. The mysterious man's hands, which had been cut by Yunjian's butterfly knife, were directly cut off. His two hands were separated from the mysterious man's body and flew far away. It was just a light cut, but because the handle of the butterfly knife was transformed from 3 magical weapons, and the blade was the legendary god-slaying blade, the combination of the two produced a huge amount of energy. It was just a light cut, but this cut directly chopped off the mysterious man's hands. One could imagine how sharp the blade was. Damn it, all of you deserve to die. All of you die. The mysterious man had never thought that the butterfly knife could make him so embarrassed. Just now, he even felt that his soul was about to be shattered by the butterfly knife. If this went on, the destruction of the physical body was a small matter and could be repaired. However, for a cultivator, the destruction of the soul meant that his soul would be destroyed and he would never be reincarnated. Bang 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 bang. The mysterious man was so angry that a series of blades appeared on the ground. These blades attacked Qin Yiru and the others. If it was Lin Mingyu and the others who were attacked instead of Qin Yiru and her team, Yunjian would never turn around to save them. However, Qin Yiru and Zhou Ran were in danger. Yunjian turned without hesitation. Seeing that Yunjian had turned to save him, the mysterious man shouted at Lu Shiyun, "Retreat! Retreat!" He wanted to escape. And just like what he said, the mysterious man only trusted himself, the past him. He even did not want his subordinates. Obviously, the situation had developed to the point where the mysterious man could not control it. And the blow with Ce had injured the mysterious man. Seeing this, Lu Shiyun retreated to where the mysterious man was as fast as he could. "Wizard God Immortal, I will not let you go. Wait and see. I will not stop until I destroy you." The mysterious man roared and turned around, intending to retreat with Lu Shiyun. Yunjian had stopped the mysterious man from attacking Qin Yiru and the others. She had no time to stop the mysterious man from escaping. Ce, on the other hand, remained where he was. The mysterious man turned around, intending to retreat with Lu Shiyun as soon as possible. But the moment the mysterious man turned around, Lu Shiyun, who was behind him, suddenly hugged him. What are you doing?" When the mysterious man realized Lu Shiyun's action, he stared at Lu Shiyun in disbelief, looking at his former self. A cultivator could detonate his body on the spot and release a strength that was 10,000 times stronger than his own. It was commonly known as self-explosion. The epicenter of self-explosion would be barren, and no one would survive. Just as the mysterious man realized Lu Shiyun's action, the self-explosion point had already been activated in Lu Shiyun's body. Lu Shiyun turned to look at Yunjian and Team Monarch. The ferocious look on his face that was identical to the mysterious man's gradually faded. He suddenly flashed a faint smile at everyone. It was so gentle that it reminded Yunjian and Team Monarch of his composure and steadiness when they first met Lu Shiyun. The self-explosion point in Lu Shiyun's body was rapidly activated. He glanced at Team Monarch and suddenly set his eyes on Yunjian. He spoke as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. And the last harsh words he said before he left this world. Everyone, I'm sorry. It seems that I still can't accept my future self, but I'm afraid that he'll be lonely when he leaves. Team Monarch's captain, Lu Shiyin, hereby applies to retire from the position of captain of Team Monarch forever. Please approve. M. Chapter 2675. The words that came out of Lu Shiyin's mouth were awe-inspiring, just like the righteous, mature, and steady life he had led. Lu Shiyin might not have lived a grand life, and he might not have lived an awe-inspiring life, but his heroic bearing as a soldier and his heart to protect Team Monarch would never change even in death. Because he was Team Monarch's captain. Even if his future self became someone he hated, Lu Shiyin in the present had never thought of betraying them. Never. He did it. He fulfilled his duty as Team Monarch's captain. Ever since he promised Ge Junjian to become captain, he would protect everyone in Team Monarch. The faint smile was the same as when Yunjian met the 6 members of Team Monarch when she first joined the military. The captain, Lu Shiyin, flashed her a grin. It was a smile that was so plain that it did not have any ups and downs, but it was deeply imprinted in the hearts of Yunjian and Team Monarch. No wonder Captain told me to pass the position of Team Monarch's captain to Yunjian, if he passes away. She's the most suitable person. So Captain has already. That was the decision he made today. Vice Captain Hong Fan, who had been silent all this time, couldn't help but shed tears. Hong Fan, who had the best relationship with Captain Lu Shiyin, turned to look at the young man in his 20s, who had a kind smile on his face and was counting down to his self-destruction. However, just as Lu Shiyin finished his words and was about to self-destruct, Hong Fan relayed Lu Shiyin's words. Yunjian, standing in front of thousands of people, suddenly curled her lips and smiled. Her smile was so bright and beautiful that it was breathtaking. Yunjian, whose smile reached its peak, looked at Lu Shiyin, who was hugging the mysterious man tightly, and uttered the last words Lu Shiyin heard before he died. I won't take over Team Monarch. The captain of Team Monarch can only be you, Lu Shiyin. Team Monarch will always be a team of 7. It won't stand if anyone is missing. Team Monarch is disbanded today. There will be no more kings in this world. For Lu Shiyin, Team Monarch was disbanded. It was a way of reminiscing. Yunjian used another way to convey a law that would never change to Lu Shiyin. Team Monarch was indispensable. Without Lu Shiyin, Team Monarch would cease to exist. No matter what he did in the future, everyone in Team Monarch would acknowledge his existence and identity. His position as Team Monarch's captain would never change. Lu Shiyin cried and laughed at Yunjian's words. Tears flowed from the corner of his eyes, blurring his vision blurred. However, Lu Shiyin's lips curled into a smile. His smile was full of energy and pride. Boom. Boom. Just as Lu Shiyin's lips curled into a smile, and he shed his most sincere tears, the self-detonation that was activated inside Lu Shiyin's body shook the entire area. The sky was covered by a huge beam of light. Everyone closed their eyes involuntarily, unable to open them for a long time. When everyone opened their eyes, there was a thick cloud of dust where Lu Shiyin had been standing. Captain! Team Monarch shrieked, tears filling the corners of their eyes. Yes, Yunjian was right. Without Lu Shiyin, Team Monarch, a team of 7, would cease to exist. He was not in the wrong. It was this cruel and realistic world that was at fault. The wind blew gently, sweeping up the dust on the ground and taking away Lu Shiyin's simple and short life. Chapter 2676. The dust swept across the sky. The dust gradually dissipated in front of everyone's eyes. Everything was over. The mysterious man's men, the group of black-robed men, were all subdued by Yunjian's men and killed on the spot. Corpses were everywhere inside and outside the bounded domain. Strange feelings flashed through the hearts of the thousands of people present. Everyone was completely silent at this moment. At this moment, the bounded domain began to crack and gradually disintegrate. Finally, it disappeared with the wind as if nothing had happened. At the moment when everyone's hearts had completely calmed down, A mocking laugh that sounded like it was about to tear someone's throat rang out from the gradually dissipating dust. Ha ha ha. Ha ha. Why? Why can't even my former self understand my pain now? Why do I have to suffer such a thing? What did I do wrong? Ha ha ha. The wind blew down, rolling up the sand all over the sky. The dust in front of them could not be seen clearly. Gradually, a phantom appeared in front of everyone again. Lu Shiyun had been in the self-explosion, and there was nothing left of him. This phantom was the mysterious man. Lu Shiyun is dead. As the future, why is he still alive? Seeing this, someone was so scared that he hugged the person in front of him, and his face suddenly changed. The former Lu Shiyun was dead, which meant that everything in the future should be changed. Why was the mysterious man still alive? Everyone's heart was in a tight line at this moment. When Yunjian's men and the Kosha mercenaries saw the mysterious man who had not disappeared with Lu Shiyun after the self-explosion, they were 100% vigilant again. He is just a phantom. He is dead, but his obsession is too deep and the resentment in his heart can't dissipate. The knot in his heart has not been untied, so it can't go away for a long time. Yunjian suddenly said when everyone was 100% vigilant again. After she finished speaking, sure enough, the phantom of the mysterious man seemed not to see Yunjian and others. He took 2 steps to a corner in a mess and kept muttering sad words. Why? Why do I have to suffer such a thing? I could have lived a good life. Haha, I can't turn back, I can't turn back. Am I wrong? Why did I have to betray myself in the past? Do I not deserve to live? Why? Why are you doing this to me? It was as if they were questioning the unfairness of the heavenly Tao. They were filled with despair and pain. No one wanted to become a bad person. Unfortunately, this was a cruel and realistic world. It was just like how no one was willing to commit suicide. Unfortunately, he had encountered too many facts that he could not bear and face. You will never be able to imagine it, and you should never judge anyone from a moral point of view, because you don't know the life of others. Yunjian narrowed her eyes slightly. Her vision followed the mysterious man's swaying steps and chased after him. Just as the mysterious man staggered 2 steps forward, a clear and melodious song, like the cry of a magpie, suddenly came from the forest nearby the open area. The song was filled with despair and desolation. It was so clear that people could not help but want to find out what kind of past she had encountered to make such a clear and cold voice of a young girl with a melodious voice that seemed to be able to awaken the earth. This song that caused one to fall silent made the mysterious person who was walking forward unsteadily and hesitantly without a puppet of his own, who was walking forward with an expressionless face, stop in his tracks. The voice was beautiful and crisp. It was so pure and clean that it sounded like an angel from heaven. But when the mysterious man's illusion heard this voice, he suddenly covered his face and squatted down. He held his head and cried loudly. Why? Why did you betray me? Why? Why did you leave me when I needed you the most? Why? The owner of the soft singing voice finally appeared in front of everyone. A young girl who could produce such a beautiful voice indeed had a pure and clean face. She smiled faintly and slowly walked towards them. When she came in front of the mysterious man, she gently lowered her head and placed her hand on the mysterious man's head. But she did not touch the mysterious man's head. She too was an illusion. Like the mysterious man, she had died long ago. When the 2 illusions collided, they would never touch each other. The young girl suddenly smiled at the mysterious man in front of everyone. This smile was full of sadness. I'm sorry. I asked Sister Yunjian to refuse you when you asked her for help, because I don't deserve such an excellent person like you. Chapter 2677. This was the woman whom the mysterious man, the future Lu Shiyun, fell in love with. This innocent woman, who looked only 16 or 17 years old, had a beautiful face and a delicate voice, which made people involuntarily sink into her beautiful voice. However, such an angelic woman unintentionally ruined Lu Shiyun's life, and made Lu Shiyun crazy to take revenge on Yunjian. Sister Yunjian, I'm sorry. It's my fault. I didn't expect him to be so obsessed with me. Maybe my birth was a tragedy. The woman, who was deeply loved by Lu Shiyin, looked at Yunjian, put her hands behind her waist, and gave Yunjian an apologetic smile. The words that came out of the woman's mouth were as pure as her beautiful voice, which brought people an unforgettable experience. By the way, Sister Yunjian, you don't seem to know me now. Then let me introduce myself again. My name is Xiang Weilan. My dream is to be as pure and flawless as the clouds in the blue sky one day. Xiang Weilan happily introduced herself to Yunjian with a smile. With a smile, Xiang Weilan turned around and reached out her clean little hand to the mysterious man, the future Lu Shiyin. Shiyin, it's time for us to go to a place where no one knows us. This time, I don't want to let go of your hand. I want to be as pure and flawless as the clouds in the sky, even if I'm unacceptably dirty. Just like what you said before. I'm the purest person in the world. I believe in you. In the future, I don't want to let go of your hand anymore. The mysterious man's phantom was holding his head and squatting on the ground. After hearing Xiang Weilan's words, he slowly put down his ears and slowly stood up. The moment he put his hand in Xiang Weilan's, the two hands that could never be held together again, Xiang Weilan held the mysterious man's hand, and the mysterious man slowly stood up. The wind once again blew past this place, bringing with it a dense fragrance. Dandelions that came out of nowhere lingered around Xiang Qinglan and the mysterious man. The figures of Xiang Weilan and the mysterious man gradually dissipated under the lingering dandelions. Finally, they turned into two ordinary dandelions and flew into the blue sky together with the other dandelions floating in the sky. To the blue. She yearned to soar to the blue sky. She did it. She told herself that in the future, she could also be as white as the clouds floating in the sky. Yunjian learned the story of Xiang Weilan and the future Lu Shiyin from the notebook left by Lu Shiyin in 2004. Lu Shiyin had always had the habit of taking notes. From the notebook left behind by Lu Shiyin, Yunjian learned that the future Lu Shiyin had already found the present Lu Shiyin and told him everything that had happened in the future. Xiang Weilan was a prostitute. When the future Lu Shiyin first met her, she was singing in a bar. Her melodious voice attracted Lu Shiyin. Xiang Weilan also fell in love with Lu Shiyin, who took care of her, but she didn't dare to tell Lu Shiyin about her lowly identity. She was dirty, very dirty, so dirty that even she despised herself. But in order to survive, in order to eat, in order to survive, she sold herself. Later, Lu Shiyin found out about her past. He didn't despise her, but she despised herself. Later, for Lu Shiyin, Xiang Weilan refused to accept any more customers. Unknowingly, she offended the big shots and was beaten up countless times. But she didn't dare to tell Lu Shiyin, afraid that he would feel bad. She was afraid of hurting Lu Shiyin, so she left Lu Shiyin in the name of betrayal. She also begged the future Yunjian not to save her if she died, because she couldn't face Lu Shiyin anymore. Later, Xiang Weilan died. She was raped and killed by the big shots and stabbed to death. Lu Shiyin knew that Yunjian had superb medical skills. He hugged Xiang Weilan and begged Yunjian to save her, but he was cruelly rejected by Yunjian. Men in love were usually irrational. Because of this, he hated Yunjian and felt that Yunjian did it on purpose. The name Xiang Weilan was given by Xiang Weilan herself. She hoped that one day, she could fly towards the blue sky, as white and flawless as the clouds floating in the sky, as clean as her singing. She did it. She flew towards the blue sky. She did it. Chapter 2678. Lu Shiyin and Xiang Weilan's story was both beautiful and sad. It was the summer of 2015. Lu Shiyin, who was rushing home from the military, passed by a bar street near his home. Originally, he was in a hurry to go home, but when he passed by, he was attracted by a melodious song that sounded like the chirping of an oriole. Humans are emotional creatures, and they can't help but be attracted by things that can attract them. Lu Shiyin stepped into the bar and saw a young lady sitting at the front desk. She seemed to have experienced a lot. The girl's eyelashes were very long, and under the neon lights, her slender figure was beautiful. Lu Shiyin felt that the moment he stepped into the bar, The girl raised her eyes slightly and looked back at him. She didn't know that this glance completely changed the fate of both of them. From then on, Lu Shiyin couldn't help but step into this bar every day, just to see the girl. Over time it became a habit. But the two of them never said a word to each other. Until one day, when Lu Shiyin heard a young girl singing a beautiful melody, he turned around and left. The girl put down the microphone and rushed out of the bar. She took out a wallet from her pocket and handed it to Lu Shiyin. "Sir, this is the wallet you accidentally dropped yesterday. When I picked it up, you were already gone. Take it back." The girl kept her head down the whole time. Lu Shiyin finally saw the girl's face at close range. Just like the girl's singing, the girl's face was as small as a palm. Lu Shiyin took the wallet, but before he could thank her, the girl turned and ran away. From then on, Lu Shiyin still came to watch the girl sing every day, but the two of them never got to know each other. Until one day, Lu Shiyin turned to leave after listening to the girls singing. Suddenly, there was a burst of noise behind him. "Let me go! Let me go!" The girl's cry for help was immediately heard. It was a dozen big men who rushed up and dragged the girl out. One of the big men raised his hand and slapped the girl, causing her ears to ring and a heavy bruise to appear on her face. "Bitch, don't pretend to be virtuous. If you don't listen, I'll strip you naked on the spot." The big man roared, raised his hand, and was about to give her another heavy slap. But this slap, before it fell into the girl's hand, it was caught by a large hand. It was Lu Shiyin. "Yo, little brat, why aren't you letting go of me? Be careful, I'll find someone to kill you." But before the last three words left the man's mouth, Lu Shiyin didn't even look at him. He raised his hand and placed a document in front of the group of men. "Police." After seeing the clear handwriting on the document, the group of burly men was stunned. "Consider yourself lucky." Seeing this, the large man spat at the young girl and left with his men. Lu Shiyin personally escorted the girl back to her residence. A dilapidated slum that couldn't be any more dilapidated. "Well, thank you." Just as Lu Shiyin was about to leave, the girl who had been silent all this time finally spoke. After 2 seconds of silence, the girl suddenly turned around and gave Lu Shiyin a smile that would make Lu Shiyin fall for her for the rest of his life. "My name is Xiang Weilan. It's a name I gave myself. My dream is to be as pure and flawless as the clouds in the blue sky one day. What about you?" The girl's smile made Lu Shiyin blush. Since then, Lu Shiyin and the girl got to know each other, understood each other, and were attracted to each other. In the end, they couldn't escape love. Xiang Weilan kept telling herself that she was just greedy for his goodness. After a while she would leave. He was a soldier and she shouldn't hold him back. A dirty girl like her wasn't good enough for him. Xiang Weilan was sold into a brothel by her mother when she was young, and was forced to serve customers. She named herself Xiang Weilan because she wanted to be as pure and flawless as the clouds in the blue sky one day. She longed for a clean life. After falling in love with Lu Shiyin, Xiang Weilan used the money she had accumulated over the years in exchange for a chance to redeem herself. Although she was beaten up by her mother in the brothel in the end, she was able to escape. Lu Shiyin didn't know about it. He introduced her to Yun Jian and the rest of Team Monarch. She also got to know Yun Jian, who stood at the peak of everyone. Those were the happiest days of Xiang Weilan's life. She was carefree as if she was really living the life of her dreams. However, the good times didn't last. In the winter of 2017, the leader of the group of burly men who dragged her away from the bar came looking for her again. He was an international big shot. However, Xiang Weilan wasn't willing to serve any more customers. She didn't want to betray Lu Shiyin. However, the other party threatened her that if she didn't go, they would destroy Lu Shiyin's future and bright future. Xiang Weilan agreed, but she didn't dare to tell anyone. She only secretly looked for Yun Jian, and told Yun Jian that if she was about to die one day, she begged her not to save her, because a dirty person like her didn't have the right to spend the rest of her life with Lu Shiyin. Other than that, she didn't say anything else. Xiang Weilan knelt and kowtowed to Yun Jian until her head bled. Only then did Yun Jian agree to her. The purity that was lost could never be regained. No one was willing to give up. Xiang Weilan's wish was very small. She only hoped that her body could be as pure and flawless as the clouds, but she would never have the chance to do so. Chapter 2679. In order to completely disappear from Lu Shiyun's world, Xiang Weilan found all kinds of men and made out with them in front of Lu Shiyun. However, after Lu Shiyun quarreled with Xiang Weilan and left in anger, Xiang Weilan chased away the men who pretended to be her customers and hid in her room to cry. In order to make Lu Shiyun give up on her, Xiang Weilan even belittled him loudly. "You're just an ordinary person. You can't even compare to the money I earned under Mama Sang. How are you going to support me? I want a high-quality life, but what can you give me? I just think that you're good-looking, so I'm playing with you. Do you really think that I've met love?" Xiang Weilan's words were very firm, because she had to pretend in front of the big bosses in the past. Her words and expressions made Lu Shiyun unable to find any loopholes. After walking out of the room, Xiang Weilan dragged her luggage and squatted not far away from Lu Shiyun's house. She cried silently for the entire night. The next day, she went to the place where the big shot was. Who knew that the big shot had a strange habit? When she was forced to go to the big shot's house, there were more than a dozen of the big shot's friends waiting for her. Yes, the big shot's strange habit was that he liked to have sex with a group. Xiang Weilan refused to comply. In the end, she swallowed a glass shard and failed to commit suicide. This group of people lost their minds. After Xiang Weilan swallowed the glass shard and failed to commit suicide, they raped her. However, on the other side, Lu Shiyun received news that when he saw Xiang Weilan, she was already dying. Lu Shiyun loved her too deeply. He carried Xiang Weilan to seek treatment from Yin Jian. Xiang Weilan could no longer speak, but she said to him in a shrill voice, "I've never loved you. I just regret accepting their invitation today. I didn't expect them to make me eat glass shards. Otherwise, with my ability, I would definitely be able to live a good life." This sentence hurt Lu Shiyun both physically and mentally. When he found Yin Jian and asked for treatment, Yin Jian refused without even looking at him. To Lu Shiyun, when Xiang Weilan betrayed him, his loved one had just died in a car accident, and he was betrayed by the woman he loved. There was no way to seek treatment. Lu Shiyun knew that Yin Jian had the ability to save Xiang Weilan, but she didn't do anything. Perhaps his love was too deep. After Xiang Weilan's death, Lu Shiyun was completely dispirited. He became silent and didn't say a word. Finally, in 2018, the group of big shots who had killed Xiang Weilan were suddenly killed in a bar. The group of big shots were badly mutilated and dismembered. Their deaths were extremely tragic. The police found out that the person who killed this group of people was Lu Shiyun. By the time Lu Shiyun was fully apprehended, he was already nowhere to be found. After Xiang Weilan and Lu Shiyun transformed into dandelions and left with the wind, the truth was no longer known by those familiar with it. However, at the last moment, the two of them left behind two phantoms, embracing each other. They were happy. Back when Yin Jian was in the future world, which was 2019, she found out that the incident that happened in Longmen City was Lu Shiyun who had killed the group of big shots and dismembered them. It was because the perpetrator was Lu Shiyun, and after checking the suspect file given by Zhou Ran, Yin Jian guessed that the mysterious person was Lu Shiyun. Returning to reality, Xiang Weilan and Lu Shiyun's phantoms completely disappeared before Yin Jian and the rest. Everything was over. The barrier had been broken. Other than the thousands of people who were still frozen, everything that happened just now was like a nightmare. "Mother!" At that moment, a tall and handsome figure dashed out from the forest beside them. It was none other than the newcomer. It was the grown-up Si Tua, also known as Xing Feng, who was being held captive by the mysterious person. Xing Feng was handsome, inheriting Si Yi's looks. When Xing Feng appeared, he rushed to Yin Jian almost instantly, reaching out to hug Yin Jian. However, just as he called out "Mother," and was about to hug his long-lost mother, Si Yi tripped him. Si Yi suddenly tripped Xing Feng with his foot, and pulled Yin Jian into his arms, glaring menacingly at Xing Feng. Xing Feng was speechless. Chapter 2680. Xing Feng shuddered when he saw Ce. He touched his head and stopped in his tracks. Ever since the God's continent was created, Xing Feng had spent so many years trying to change the fate of his parents. He had almost forgotten what his biological father looked like. With Ce around, he as a son, could not even think about touching his mother, not even once. Cough. Xing Feng helplessly touched his handsome nose, then glanced at Ce. Father. Xing Feng still had an instinctive fear of Ce. When Xing Feng and Zhou Ran were young, Ce had thrown them into the Amazon forest, and they had suffered a lot. Young master, we have successfully completed the task you gave us. Xing Feng rushed over. Behind him, Adam, Emo's son, Shuang, and Lin Wei had also arrived. When the 4 leaders of the Hun organization appeared, Adam took the lead and told Ce the good news that they had completed the task. In return, Ce softly replied, The 4 leaders of the Hun organization did not arrive during the battle between Yunjian and Ce. Even Di Lin, Lung Mei, and the others from the Blood Doll organization did not arrive because Ce had given them a task. That was to save Xing Feng. After Xing Feng was saved, he used his last bit of spiritual power to summon the phantom of the deceased Xiang Weilan. Phantom was a general term used by cultivators for people without a physical body or soul. It was a remnant will in the human world, nothing more. That was why Xiang Weilan and Lu Shiyan had turned into dandelions and flew into the blue sky. At least, their phantoms, which were their wills, were together. At the last moment, they had left with smiles. Ha ha ha. Work is done, work is done. Mother, how long has it been since I've eaten your cooking? How about you cook for me tonight, and let me have a free meal? Xing Feng touched his nose and led the way forward. After taking 2 steps, he suddenly turned around. His handsome Ce face was filled with anticipation. Upon hearing that Xing Feng wanted Yunjian to cook for him, Ce's face instantly darkened. Yunjian was good at everything except spinning hula hoops and cooking. In the end, Xing Feng said that he had eaten Yunjian's cooking. Even if it was a meal cooked by the future Yunjian for Xing Feng, Ce's handsome face was tinged with annoyance when he heard what she said. Hey mother, why don't you make my favorite food when I was young? I recall it's that. After Xing Feng finished speaking, he turned around and walked in front of Yunjian and Ce. He even rested his chin on his hands solemnly, carefully recalling the name of the dish Yunjian had cooked for him back then. Xing Feng took 2 steps in front of Yunjian and Ce. As he walked, a slender leg suddenly reached out from behind and hooked onto Xing Feng's long leg. This sudden attack caused Xing Feng to fall flat on his face. The ground was covered with grass mixed with mud that had been moistened by the rain. Not to mention how moist Xing Feng's face was when he suddenly fell to the ground. Xing Feng stood up and scolded angrily. Who has the guts to trip my foot? Xing Feng swept his eyes over the scene. In the end, when his eyes landed on Adam's group of 4, he suddenly saw Shui Ying's eyes glance to the side. This must be the culprit who tripped him, and caused him to fall flat on his face. Xing Feng glared fiercely in the direction Shui Ying had indicated. However, he saw a handsome face that was 80% similar to his, except that the features were more distinct. Chapter 2681. When he realized that the person who had tripped him was actually his own father, Xing Feng even had the thought of dying. Father? Father, why did you trip me for no reason? Look at my clothes, they're all stained with mud. Although Xing Feng had lived for so many years and had a face that was 80% similar to Ce's, his personality was completely different from Ce's. Ce was the kind of person who was so cold that people didn't dare to approach or talk to him. Other than the woman he loved, he wouldn't care about anyone else. Although Xing Feng had a handsome face that was identical to Ce's, and even inherited that cold appearance, he was completely different from Ce. He was the kind of person who liked to talk about things with humor. When he realized that the person who tripped him was actually his own father, Xing Feng was stunned. After being stunned, he immediately acted coquettishly. However, Xing Feng's coquettish behavior was met with a cold and merciless sentence from Ce. Get lost. Xingfeng naturally understood his father. He twitched the corner of his mouth, turned around, and ran away in dejection. The next morning, the vice president of the martial arts club, Mo Bufan, scratched his head. He was sleeping on his big single bed at home. He turned over. Although the single bed was big, Mo Bufan was sleeping on the edge of the single bed. When he turned over, he directly rolled onto the ground. "Oh!" Mo Bufan wailed. After howling, his consciousness gradually became clear. "SSS, why do I feel like I had a very scary dream? What kind of dream was it? Why can't I remember? SSS, in my dream, there seems to be Yin Jian?" Mo Bufan scratched his head and muttered to himself. As he muttered, he stood up and put on his clothes. Thinking that it was just a dream, he decided not to think about it. After eating breakfast, he took a bus from home to school. As soon as he entered the classroom, he heard the students discussing. The one who led the discussion was Kai Huiling, who had a dispute with Yin Jian in university. "Why did that little bitch appear in my dream? What the hell is going on? I don't want that bitch to appear in my dreams at all. And it seemed like she's slaying God, the #1 on the international secret agent ranking. What kosher mercenaries, boss? In my dream, I seem to have dreamt that there were a few people who claimed to be kosher mercenaries standing behind that little bitch. I'm puzzled. She actually appeared in my dream in such a manner. Does she think she's a transformer or an armored warrior?" Kai Huiling was chatting with some girls who didn't know what was going on about the dream she had yesterday. She mocked them while laughing. Mo Bufan scratched his head and walked past Kai Huiling. Strange. Why did he seem to have achieved the dream she had? But Mo Bufan didn't think too much about it. "Look, the Transformers and Armored Warriors are here." Kai Huiling pointed at the stairs with a mocking tone. Instead, he saw a slender young girl whose face had been moisturized by a man. Her breasts were full, and her figure was slender. Yin Jian happened to pass by at that moment. Hearing Kai Huiling and the rest mocking her, Yin Jian's lips curled into a red arc. When she passed by Kai Huiling and the rest, she flashed a strange smile at Kai Huiling. The grin made Kai Huiling mock Yin Jian, even more as she shouted at the latter's back. "What are you talking about? Hey, you're a transformer, aren't you?" She had a mocking smile on her face. However, just as Kai Huiling finished her sentence, she suddenly saw a butterfly knife appear in Yin Jian's empty hand. It was nothing much. However, looking at the shape of the butterfly knife, Kai Huiling suddenly recalled a scene in her mind. It was the scene where Yin Jian combined the 3 artifacts into the butterfly knife handle. When Kai Huiling snapped back to reality, she suddenly screamed in shock. The girls who were listening to her joke about Yin Jian were at a loss. "Ah, that dream wasn't a dream. It's real. It's real, it's real." Chapter 2682. Kai Huiling slid to the ground like she was paralyzed, hugging her head as if she was frightened by something. The girls were bewildered. When they looked up at Yin Jian had already put away the butterfly knife that was transformed from 3 divine weapons and combined with the god-vanquishing blade. "She doesn't have anything in her hands? Huiling, are you sure you saw wrongly?" The girls exclaimed in shock. It was Kai Huiling who told the school about the dream she had yesterday early in the morning. She even compared Yin Jian to an armored warrior, saying that everything in the dream was hilarious. How could someone like Yin Jian be the top secret agent in the world? What boss of the kosher mercenaries? Now that she saw Yin Jian, she screamed like she had lost her mind. However, Yin Jian was already far away. After making sure that everyone thought it was a nightmare, Yin Jian returned to Longmen City. Xing Feng and Yuan Xing came from the future and should have left this era through the dimensional gateway. However, both of them refused to leave for a long time. What was more, Xing Feng and Yuan Xing stayed in Longmen City for a few days. Shui Ying and Si Luo had yet to give birth to Yuan Xing. In the next few days, Yuan Xing would often ask Shui Ying and Si Luo in front of everyone, "When are you guys giving birth?" He was anxious because he was about to be born in his past life, but Si Luo's stomach had yet to show any signs of pregnancy. His question made Si Luo cover his face and leave. Don't stop me. I'm going to make him cry. Kid. Who told you to bully me every day when you were young? You even stole my beloved little sister, didn't you? You brat. Xing Feng was held back by Mo Sun and Lin Wei as he glared at little Zhou Yiran, who was playing happily on the bed. Little Zhou Yiran was only 4 years old and had no idea that he was the one who bullied Xing Feng in the future. At this moment, Zhou Yiran was holding a group photo of him, the little fellow, and the little girl. In front of Xing Feng, little Zhou Yiran looked at the photo and giggled. As he laughed, he suddenly smacked his lips on the little girl in the photo. Just as the atmosphere was about to explode, Xiao Zhou turned around and kissed the little guy in the photo. The little fellow was none other than Xing Feng himself. Brat, let go of your mouth. Everyone in the villa could hear Xing Feng's roar clearly. On the day that Xing Feng and Yuan Jin left, Yin Jian saw Shenji again in the forest of time and space. Shenji from the future, 2019. Shenji had come all the way from the future. In a dark corner of the forest, Yin Jian and Shenji looked at each other. You're looking for you? Yin Jian curled her lips at the seductive Shenji, who was in her 30s. Yes. Shenji smiled gracefully and nodded at Yin Jian. What's the matter? Yin Jian asked again. The way the two of them interacted was always to speak as little as possible. Yes. Shenji nodded. Finally, Shenji looked up at Yin Jian. 006, promise me something. Don't refuse. Yes. Yin Jian looked up. She had thought that Shenji had come all the way from the future to 2004 to remind her not to forget to save him. After all, Yin Jian had the butterfly knife now. Under certain circumstances, it could bring someone back from the dead. And Yin Jian could save Shenji, who had already passed away. But Shenji only looked up and smiled bitterly. Don't save me. I know you have the ability, but please don't save me. Why? Yin Jian wasn't surprised. 006, it's been so many years. I'm tired. Let me be free. Chapter 2683. Compared to her 20s, Shenji, who was in her 30s, was much more mature and detached from the world. If Shenji was like a wild rose with thorns in the past, the current Shenji standing in front of Yin Jian was like an old man without a care in the world. Hearing Shenji's words, Yin Jian fell silent. She was silent because if she hadn't met Ce, if she hadn't been reborn as Yin Jian, and if everything hadn't happened, then her choice would have been the same as Shenji's. In this world, no one understood Shenji better than she did. Okay, Yin Jian uttered the word flatly from her lips. Hearing Yin Jian's words, Shenji smiled. Her smile was enchanting and playful. Then if we have the chance to meet again in the next life, I will definitely defeat you before you grow up. 006, I, Shenji, haven't forgotten to surpass you. 4 generations to come, for all eternity. Shenji extended a hand to Yin Jian, her piercing eyes glistening with tears as she guffawed, her words flowing smoothly. I'll be waiting. Yin Jian clasped Shenji's hand with a smack. She wore a faint smile, just like how she had spent half her life as Shenji's enemy back in an Hun group. It was radiant and beautiful. You have to be happy. Shenji patted Yin Jian's shoulder. She glanced at Ce, who was holding the little girl and carrying the little guy. Then she turned and walked towards the forest of time and space. The wind blew the fallen leaves on the ground, lifting them into the air and carrying them into the sky. In less than 2 seconds, the wind stopped without warning. All the leaves in the air fell back to the ground. Shenji was like a dancing leaf. The moment she was lifted by the wind, she was dazzling. Then she returned to her roots, leaving no trace behind. Her fiery red clothes fluttered in the wind. Shenji left in a hurry, like a heroic heroine. She took away Yin Jian's lifelong rival. This was the last time Yin Jian would see Shenji. Yin Jian stood in place and stared in the direction Shenji had left for a long time. She didn't come back to her senses until someone tugged at her clothes. Yin Jian didn't come back to her senses. Mama. Mama's bag, Mama's bag. The little boy in Ce's hand tugged on Yin Jian's clothes. Because he was being carried by Ce. The little boy swayed from side to side as if he was on a swing. She said hug his bag. The little guy blinked his big eyes. He was so cute that people wanted to pinch his face. Yunjian turned around and saw the little guy who had suddenly started giggling after seeing something fun. Her heart skipped a beat. He reached out and hugged the little fellow, gently rubbing the little fellow's head. She looked up and saw Ce looking at her with a doting expression. Yes, she and Shinji already had a different life. A home full of color and love. She still had her dearest family waiting for her to return home. So she wasn't alone. For the first time, Ce let the little guy snuggle in Yunjian's arms. After Yunjian sent Shinji away, Xingfeng and Yuanxing also left. After all, they weren't from this era. And the most important thing was that the Lu Shiyun of this world is dead. His death should have changed the future. It should have even returned to the time before the mysterious man appeared. Xingfeng stood outside the forest of time and space as he analyzed. The Lu Shiyun of the modern world was dead. Logically speaking, the Lu Shiyun of the future wouldn't have had a chance to return to the beginning of the divine continent. Then none of this would have happened. This also meant that Yunjian, as the sorcerer goddess, and Ce, as the divine lord, wouldn't have come to Earth. Everything should have been restored to the time when everything had not happened. But don't worry. I've investigated. Because of the mysterious man, time and space have been distorted. Even if the mysterious man doesn't appear in the future, nothing will change now. But there's something bad I need to tell everyone. Xingfeng paused for a moment when he said this. In the end, he continued. The gate of time and space has started to dissipate. I estimate that in 20 minutes, the gate of time and space won't be able to be used again. In other words, if we go back to the future this time, we won't be able to return to 2004. Speaking of this, Xingfeng wasn't worried about not being able to see Yunjian and Ce again. He turned to Yuanxing. Yuanxing, if you don't do something now, you won't have another chance. Xingfeng knew that Yuanxing treated Yiji differently. At this moment, Yiji was trembling behind Yunjian. She peeked out one eye to look at Yuanxing, who was standing beside Xingfeng. Hearing Xingfeng's words, Yuanxing's deep eyes flickered. Just when everyone thought that Yuanlin would ask Yiji to wait for him for more than 10 years, Yuanlin suddenly walked in front of Yiji and grabbed her wrist. He couldn't help but retort as he pulled Yiji toward Xingfeng. Follow me. After a pause, he was afraid that Yiji wouldn't agree, so he suddenly said in front of everyone, I'll marry you. Come. Wonderful book house. Chapter 2684. Yuanxing's sudden confession gave everyone a fright. Even Xingfeng didn't expect that Yuanxing, who had always been by his side, who had always placed importance on important matters, who had even watched as the women he knew fell in front of him, would be beaten to death without a care in the slightest. How could he say such explosive words? Xingfeng originally thought that Yuanxing only treated Yiji differently. He thought that Yuanxing would tell Yiji to wait for him for more than 10 years. He did not expect that the first thing he said would be to marry her. Cough. Xingfeng put his fist in front of his mouth and coughed lightly. He unnaturally pursed his lips into a secret smile. Yiji had always been timid. She was a puppet created by the mysterious person to deal with Yunjian. Even the heavens and earth did not approve of her existence. However, Yiji was caught off guard by Yuanxing's sudden confession in front of everyone. Her wrist was tightly gripped by Yuanning. His eyes were fixed on her face, as if he was a python that would swallow her alive if she dared to refuse. Yiji shuddered. She turned to Yunjian for help. Sister Yunjian, follow your heart. If you're willing, we'll meet again in a decade or so. Yunjian pressed her lips together and interrupted Yiji's words. Follow my heart. Yiji placed her other hand that was not held by Yuanxing over her heart and closed her eyes. After meditating for a few minutes, Yiji finally opened her eyes and looked at Yunjian. Sister Yunjian, will I be able to see you again after I leave? Yes. Yunjian nodded. Yiji had gone to the future, which meant that she had traveled more than 10 years to the future. Naturally, she would be able to meet the future Yunjian. However, For Yunjian and the others, they would have to wait for more than 10 years before they could meet the future Yiji. Once she heard that she would be able to see Yunjian, Yiji agreed decisively. All right, the dimensional door is about to disappear. If you don't leave now, it will be too late. Xingfeng used his spiritual power to sense and frowned. Hearing this, Yuanjing grabbed Yiji's hand and walked into the space-time forest. Father, mother, everyone, we will meet again in the future. Xingfeng revealed a handsome smile that was 80% similar to Si Yi's. He nodded towards everyone, and then turned around to catch up with Yuanxing's footsteps. After sending off Xingfeng, Yuanxing, and Yiji, Yunjian returned to her normal life. But after that, Yunjian still had a very important thing to do. 1 month later, the Chun family of Longmen City. Chun Sini had been locked up at home by her father for several days, especially today. To her, it was worse than death, because this afternoon, Zhang Xiaofeng would be engaged to a rich young lady whom he had known for less than half a year. Zhang Xiaofeng's and Chun Sini's families found out about their relationship. A relationship between cousins was an intolerable act of incest. Chun Sini was impatient as she was locked up at home. Just as Chun Sini was about to smash her head in her anxiety, a sachet was thrown in through the window. Stunned, she quickly opened the sachet and took out its contents. When she saw the familiar words and the key in the sachet, Chun Sini was elated. It was her. It was Yunjian. In a luxurious 5-star hotel in Longmen City, Zhang Xiaofeng was forced by his parents to change into the groom's attire for the engagement. The engagement party was in progress. Zhang Xiaofeng's father, dragged Zhang Xiaofeng to the center of the hotel and clinked glasses with the bride's father, Guohong. In-law, we're a family from now on. Please be more tolerant. Of course. Guohong smiled with squinted eyes and clinked glasses with Zhang Xiaofeng's father. Both of them looked at each other and drank. Zhang Xiaofeng rolled his eyes on the side. If his mother had not held a knife to his neck to force him to change, he would never have come here. Next to Guohong was a girl who was peeking at Zhang Xiaofeng shyly. She was about 18 years old and looked average. The girl's name was Guoyaoding. She was Zhang Xiaofeng's fiancée. It was apparent that if it were not for the urgent need to cut off Zhang Xiaofeng and Chun Sini's relationship, Zhang Xiaofeng's father would not have asked Zhang Xiaofeng to get engaged in such a hurry. Cough, cough. Thank you, dear friends and family, for coming today. Today is the engagement party of my son, and the young lady of the Guo family, Guoyaoding. Thank you for coming. Let the engagement ceremony begin. Zhang Xiaofeng's father spoke with squinted eyes. Just as he spoke, a clear and melodious female voice rang out. Hold on. This voice suddenly rang out, causing an uproar in the crowd. What was this? Was someone trying to snatch the bride like in television dramas? Everyone was stunned. Just as everyone was thinking about this, a figure suddenly jumped down from the second floor. This figure jumped down from the second floor. His action was so clean that it shocked everyone around him. Zhang Xiaofeng's eyes lit up when he saw this. Yunjian, who suddenly stood in front of everyone, turned her head and looked at Zhang Xiaofeng, who was standing in front of the engagement ceremony. She gave Zhang Xiaofeng a contemptuous smile and said something that made everyone's heart skip a beat. Why didn't you invite your master to your engagement party? Come. Wonderful book house. Chapter 2685. These words sounded like a conversation between an ordinary person and an ordinary person, but the hearts of the people present jumped violently when they heard these words. She's fine after jumping down from the second floor just now. She even claimed to be the man's master. Who's this woman? Some guests who were invited to the scene could not help asking in shock when they saw Yunjian leaping down from the second floor. Is this person a clown who's here to perform? Someone asked, but their eyes were glued to Yunjian's face. She shouldn't be. How can a clown be so pretty? Someone retorted immediately. There was a flurry of comments. Guohong had only moved his company and assets to Longmen City a year ago. As Guohong's daughter and the person who was engaged to Zhang Xiaofeng today, Guoyaoding had only come to Longmen City recently. She fell in love with Zhang Xiaofeng the moment she met him. She liked Zhang Xiaofeng's skills and drive that were different from other guys. Zhang Xiaofeng would train every day, including the skills he had learned from Yun Jian for so many years. His ability should be at least on par with a high-level assassin. It was about half a year ago that Gui Yaoding got to know Zhang Xiaofeng. It was a gathering and they were robbed on their way home in the middle of the night. It was a gathering of young men and women, but they were robbed by a group of armed robbers on their way home. Under normal circumstances, they had no other choice but to hand over their money obediently. The robbers that day were lustful when they saw that there were a few girls in the group. If they were ordinary people, they would have been robbed and raped that day. The girls were terrified. The boys' legs were wobbly from fear. It was then that Zhang Xiaofeng stood up. Not only did Zhang Xiaofeng stand up, he even took care of the robbers with his bare hands. They were sent to the police station and praised by the police. It was said that this group of criminals were habitual criminals, but because they were cunning and powerful, and were armed with guns and knives, they were very difficult to catch. In the end, Zhang Xiaofeng managed to capture this group of criminals all by himself. From that day onwards, Gui Yaoding was attracted to Zhang Xiaofeng. Later, the relationship between Zhang Xiaofeng and her cousin, Chen Sini, was exposed. Although it was suppressed, Gui Yaoding still learned about it from various channels. And because Zhang Xiaofeng's parents wanted to completely cut off the relationship between Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini, they began to arrange blind dates for Zhang Xiaofeng. They wanted Zhang Xiaofeng to get married as soon as possible, so that he could completely cut off his relationship with Chen Sini. Gui Yaoding took advantage of the loophole to hold today's engagement party. Gui Yaoding frowned at the sudden appearance of a woman who was obviously here to make trouble, and claimed to be Zhang Xiaofeng's master. Hey, it's Yun Jian. Zhang Xiaofeng, if you dare to let Sini down, as Sini's good friend, my Yun Jian will be the first to not let you off. She's here to look for you. Although Ling Yichen was a playboy, he was also very optimistic about Chen Sini's happiness. In Ling Yichen's heart, he had already treated Chen Sini as his sister. Initially, when Zhang Xiaofeng got engaged to another woman, he was upset and frustrated just sitting by the side. The moment Yun Jian appeared, Ling Yichen stood up and spoke to Zhang Xiaofeng. However, these words sounded different to Gui Yaoding's ears. Gui Yaoding was wearing a gown. Just as Yun Jian was about to reach Zhang Xiaofeng, she stood in front of Yun Jian and acted like the hostess. She spoke to Yun Jian. You're Chen Sini's friend? I advise you not to cause trouble. If you're doing this for your friend's sake, please leave. Also, Xiaofeng doesn't have a master. You're not welcome here. Chapter 2686. Gui Yaoding said to Yun Jian word by word. Gui Yaoding completely disagreed with Yun Jian's claim that she was Zhang Xiaofeng's master. After all, ever since Gui Yaoding got to know Zhang Xiaofeng had always been training by himself. Those skills must have been learned by Zhang Xiaofeng himself. Moreover, even if he had a master, it definitely wouldn't be Chen Sini's friend. As for Yun Jian's claim that she was Zhang Xiaofeng's master, Gui Yaoding thought that Yun Jian, Chen Sini, Zhang Xiaofeng, and Ling Yichen must have gotten together when they were playing together. After all, in their youth, when students were bored in school, they would often call each other grandpa, grandma, big brother, and little brother. There were also people who called them master. As for Yun Jian, she was definitely one of those people who didn't have any actual skills. It was just a mutual term of address with Zhang Xiaofeng. Gui Yaoding's words to Yun Jian were very shrewish. After all, Gui Yaoding was also from a prestigious family, so she had to have some etiquette. F***ck. Ling Yichen grabbed a handful of his hair, looking like the emperor wasn't worried, but the eunuch was. Zhang Xiaofeng, if you get engaged with this woman today, I'll marry Sini in the future and leave with her. I'll never see you again. Ling Yichen was holding a glass of red wine. At this moment, he smashed the glass on the ground and shouted at Zhang Xiaofeng without a care for his dignity. Don't you dare! Zhang Xiaofeng panicked when he heard that Ling Yichen was going to take Chen Sini away. He shouted back. Seeing Zhang Xiaofeng's reaction, Gui Yaoding was displeased. At this moment, Yun Jian had already walked to a table in front of the engagement banquet. It was filled with all kinds of desserts and wine. She sat down at the table and crossed her legs. She casually poured herself a glass of red wine and looked at Zhang Xiaofeng. Mr. Zhang knew what Yun Jian was capable of. He ran downstairs and walked up to Yun Jian. He looked at Yun Jian with an anxious and embarrassed expression and hurriedly said, "Miss Yun, the matter between my son and Cindy, could you please not interfere?" His tone was extremely respectful. "No." Yun Jian rejected him directly. With that, she picked up the glass of red wine, put it to her lips and took a sip. Bang. After Yun Jian tasted the red wine, she threw the glass and the red wine on the ground. The glass shattered and issued a heart-wrenching sound. "Who are you? Uncle Zhang asked you to leave so politely. How could you treat Uncle Zhang like this? If you don't leave, I'm going to shout for help." Gui Yaoding grabbed her gown and walked down the stairs. She walked up to Yun Jian and glared at Yun Jian with her round eyes and threatened her loudly. But the moment Zhang Yaoding threatened Yun Jian loudly in front of everyone present, Yun Jian suddenly slid down from the table and stood on the ground. Seeing Yun Jian's move, Zhang Yaoding breathed a sigh of relief. She thought Yun Jian was afraid and wanted to compromise. But just as Zhang Yaoding thought so, Yun Jian hooked her right foot back. She suddenly turned 360 degrees, hooked a red wine bottle behind her, and kicked it back. The red wine bottle hit the wall behind Zhang Xiaofeng in front of Zhang Yaoding and everyone present. The red wine bottle was smashed and the red wine inside poured out. At that speed, that distance, all the red wine poured out onto Zhang Xiaofeng's body. Chapter 2687. I'm the one who gave you your strength. Today, I'm taking it back. The simple words that came out of Yun Jian's mouth shocked everyone present. Initially, everyone thought that Yun Jian was here to cause trouble. However, when Zhang Xiaofeng addressed Yun Jian as his master, Yun Jian kicked away the wine glass, and the words that came out of Yun Jian's mouth. The guests who were here to attend Zhang Xiaofeng and Gui Yaoding's engagement party were all stunned. Putting aside the fact that this teenage girl claimed to be Zhang Xiaofeng's master, the words that came out of her mouth were enough to shock everyone present. What right did she have to break Zhang Xiaofeng's meridians? Uncle Zhang, this girl is obviously here to cause trouble. She said that she wants to break Brother Xiaofeng's meridians. How is Brother Xiaofeng going to live his life in the future? Gui Yaoding was the first to react. She turned around and ran to Mr. Zhang, shouting loudly. Because she was running too fast, Gui Yaoding almost tripped over the gown she was wearing. Gui Yaoding's heart was now on Yun Jian's plan to hurt Zhang Xiaofeng. Father Zhang knew what Yun Jian was capable of. He did not ask someone to chase Yun Jian away like Gui Yaoding expected. Instead, his gaze dimmed as he walked slowly to Yun Jian and begged, "I'm sorry. Miss Yun, please let Xiaofeng go. I can promise you anything else, but this was a mistake from the beginning. Xiaofeng and Cindy can never be together." Mr. Zhang walked to Yun Jian and spoke to Yun Jian in an extremely soft voice. When he said that, beads of sweat rolled down his forehead. It was obvious that he was afraid of Yun Jian. Boom. Just as Mr. Zhang said that, the sound of a beer bottle crashing to the ground was heard. It was Zhang Xiaofeng who picked up a beer bottle and smashed it to the ground. The noisy engagement banquet instantly fell silent. At this moment, Zhang Xiaofeng walked down the stairs slowly. As he walked, he tore off his suit jacket and threw it to the ground. "Master, I didn't want to come to the engagement party today." As Zhang Xiaofeng spoke, he suddenly turned around and looked at his mother who was pressuring him. You heard it. Today, if you threaten me to marry Miss Guo with death again, I will ask Master to send me to my death. A life without Cindy is no different from hell." Zhang Xiaofeng's words were heard by everyone present. All the guests stood up when they heard his firm words. "Tisk, it's just what the rumors. This is simply a family misfortune, incest." "That's right. I thought that this lad was willing to be engaged to Miss Guo, because he realized his mistake and changed. Who would have thought? Tsk. The public opinion in the surroundings began to spread rapidly. Zhang Xiaofeng's expression did not change at all when he heard this. "If I can't be with Xiaofeng, I, Chen Sini, will go to hell with him. If we can't live together, We'll die together. Just as Zhang Xiaofeng finished speaking, a young lady walked out from the furthest corner of the room. The young girl gritted her teeth as she spoke, her tone filled with determination. It was none other than Chen Sini. Sini you. Mr. Zhang's expression changed when he saw Chen Sini. Zhang Xiaofeng, I Chen Sini, will follow you for the rest of my life. I'll never leave you. Since we can't be together, we'll die together. Chen Sini grinned and walked toward Zhang Xiaofeng. What she said sounded normal. However, it took a lot of courage to say something like that. How many people in the world could do that? You. Impossible. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Even if the two of you ganged up to threaten me, I'll never agree to your ridiculous request. Mr. Zhang's heart ached. He clutched his chest and said loudly. Gui Yaoting panicked when Chen Sini appeared. She hated her even more. She looked anxiously at Zhang Xiaofeng and then at Chen Sini. She shouted at Chen Sini. You'll kill Xiaofeng. Do you really love Xiaofeng or not? I'm the one who's engaged to him. You're Xiaofeng's cousin. He's your cousin. It's incest for you to marry him. You'll be punished by the heavens. Gui Yaoting was scared. She was afraid that Zhang Xiaofeng would be snatched away by Chen Sini. Just as he finished his sentence, a beautiful female voice that had not been heard for a long time suddenly rang out. However, what she said stunned Mr. Zhang, all the guests, including Zhang Yaoting, Zhang Xiaofeng, and Chen Sini on the spot. Who told you that the two of them are blood-related cousins? Chapter 2688. Yun Jian's words were like an earth-shattering secret that stunned all the guests, including Gui Yaoting, her father, Guahong, and Zhang Jian's parents. Even Chen Sini's biological parents, Chen Jinchuan and He Xia, who had chased after Chen Sini to the engagement party, were stunned by Yun Jian's sudden words. Miss Yin, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Xiaofeng and Yaoting's engagement party is about to begin. Please don't spout nonsense at the engagement party. Otherwise, even if I'll have to kick you out of the party. Mr. Zhang was stunned when he heard Yun Jian's words. It was as if Yun Jian had discovered a secret that he had kept hidden for many years. He was at a loss as to what to do and started to chase the guests away. Dad. Before Mr. Zhang could finish, the first person to interrupt him was not Yun Jian, but Zhang Xiaofeng. Zhang Xiaofeng was glaring at Mr. Zhang with his bulging eyes. After yelling, he questioned Mr. Zhang in an almost doubtful tone. His voice trembled slightly. If one listened carefully, they would be able to detect a hint of ecstasy in his trembling voice. Tell me, is it true? Mr. Zhang was stunned when he was questioned by Zhang Xiaofeng. His eyes darted around as he tried to change the topic. Xiaofeng, how can you believe this? You should hurry up and complete the engagement ceremony with Miss Gua. Dad, I'll ask you one more time. Is what my master said true? I want you to say it. Yes. Yes. Zhang Xiaofeng roared the last three words through gritted teeth. Yes. Mr. Zhang lowered his head after being yelled at by Zhang Xiaofeng, but he nodded in response. It's not worth it to kill two people who love each other and lose your son and daughter-in-law at the same time for the pride of a wealthy family. You'll regret it, Yun Jian suddenly said to Mr. Zhang when he lowered his head after being questioned by Zhang Xiaofeng. When he said this, Father Zhang's expression suddenly froze. He was not surprised that Yun Jian would say something like that. He was shocked that Yun Jian's words sounded so familiar. However, Yun Jian turned and walked out of the door as soon as Yun Jian finished her words. She would leave the rest to Zhang Xiaofeng. If he could not handle this well, then he deserved what would happen in the future. Yun Jian was right. She had been to the future world. In 2019, she heard about what would happen to Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini in the future. The two of them were not biological cousins, but they were born in a wealthy family. People in wealthy families valued reputation very much. Therefore, even if Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini were not cousins, they were not allowed to be together. Later, Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini died for love. Mr. Zhang and Chen Sini's parents had always thought that the two children were just saying, "We can't live together, but we can die together." They did not expect that the two of them really did it. In the future, Mr. Zhang regretted it very much. He was condemned by his conscience every day and could not sleep. As for what happened later, Yunjian did not care about it anymore. After seeing so many lives and deaths and dying for love, Yunjian only wanted to do one thing now. And that was in the villa. Ce was reading in the study. The two children had just been coaxed to sleep by Qin Yiru. He had just finished reading an entire book about weapons when the door of the study was opened. When he saw Yunjian wearing a heavy coat that looked like a dumpling, Ce instinctively thought that he would not be able to eat meat tonight. Just now. But just as Ce was about to ask, his expression suddenly changed and his eyes suddenly became sharp. When Yunjian took off the long and thick coat that was as cumbersome as a dumpling in front of him, Yunjian's eyes widened in shock. Inside, she was only wearing a pair of underwear that could barely cover her seductive parts. I want you. Come. Wonderful book house. Chapter 2689. Yunjian's words had completely fueled Ci's ambition. Ce was stunned when he heard Yunjian's words. In the next second, he did not even bother to go around the desk in the study. Getting up, he stepped over the desk and came to Yunjian's side in just 3 seconds. Wrapping his arms around the exposed girl, he lowered his head and pinched the little mouth that captivated him. Yunjian could not help lifting her head from the kiss and closing her eyes. Ce pressed Yunjian against the wall. As they kissed, he pushed away the miscellaneous items on the desk, and their lips were inseparable from each other. The stars at night were beautiful, reflecting the sky outside the window as they twinkled. The two stars were slowly coming together, intertwining intimately and seamlessly, creating a beautiful symphony. Just like the two people in the room, they were already lost in their mutual pleasure, and could not find themselves. They only had each other in their eyes. Yunjian was not there, so she did not know what happened to Chen Sini and Zhang Xiaofeng after that. She only knew that both of them overcame all sorts of difficulties and got together. Ling Yichen also stopped being a playboy and started dating wholeheartedly. Time passed quickly and almost a year had passed in the blink of an eye. It was worth mentioning that Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini had completely resisted the elders in their family. Not long after they got together, Si Luo became pregnant. Needless to say, Si Luo's child was a boy, Yuan Jin. However, Yunjian had never mentioned this to Si Luo, so Si Luo was very curious about the gender of her child, and kept asking about it every day. Yunjian only smiled without saying anything. It was the 31st of March 2005. It was the eve of Yunjian and Si Yi's wedding. Yunjian took the number 57 bus alone from the city center of Longmen City to the cemetery in the city. Lu Shiyun's parents often went out and rarely returned home. In addition, although Lu Shiyun's parents had not completed the divorce procedures, the two of them had been living separately for many years and had their own children and new homes. To them, Lu Shiyun was just an existence that was dispensable. Therefore, even though Lu Shiyun had passed away, no one came to visit him at the cemetery. In the future world, Lu Shiyun's parents had passed away, and Lu Shiyun was heartbroken. Lu Shiyun's parents died in a car accident, because the two of them finally got the chance to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get a divorce. Therefore, they rushed there without stopping. Lu Shiyun's father was also a soldier. A military marriage could not be easily divorced. On that day in the future, Lu Shiyun's mood was already very complicated. Coupled with Xiang Weilan's betrayal, Lu Shiyun's mood dropped to the bottom. Everyone had a bottom line. Once their bottom line was crossed, they would go berserk. Lu Shiyun's future was indeed tragic, but he was not alone. Just as Yunjian arrived at the cemetery, she saw the former Team Monarch members clearing the weeds around Lu Shiyun's grave. Yunjian. Chu Xiangnan nodded in greeting when he saw Yunjian. Yunjian nodded in response. Taking out incense and candles to pay respects to Lu Shiyun solemnly in front of the grave, Yunjian was about to leave quietly. Is Team Monarch really disbanded just like that? Chu Ning suddenly asked without calling out Yunjian's name. When Yunjian walked down the mountain, there was an imperceptible desolation in her words. Team Monarch no longer had Lu Shiyun. Everything in the past had become history. Yunjian paused, unable to say the word. When Yunjian walked down the mountain, Chuning did not give up and asked Yunjian again. Perhaps she just wanted to hear Yunjian admit to the fact that their team leader, Lu Shiyun, had really passed away. Is Team Monarch really disbanded just like that? This time, Chuning's question was met with a soft reply from Yunjian. Chuning was sobbing. She cried that Team Monarch's disbandment and Lu Shiyun's death were a foregone conclusion. Wonderful book house. Chapter 2690. Everything that had happened was like a dream that they could not wake up from. Chuning, Chu Xiangnan, everyone in Team Monarch wanted to stay in that dream forever. Sometimes, however, reality was cruel. It would tell you that when you woke up from the dream, everything that had happened in the past would be forever frozen in memories and illusions. Early the next morning, Yunjian was dragged out of bed by Qin Yiru at 3 in the morning. She had not seen Ce for a week. According to Longmen City's customs, Yunjian and Ce were not allowed to see each other on the eve of their wedding. The longer they could not see each other, the better. When others got married, the bride and groom were not allowed to see each other for a whole month. Ce could not help it. 7 days, a whole week without seeing Yunjian was his limit. She woke up at 3 in the morning, showered, brushed her teeth, cleaned her face and changed into her wedding clothes. At 4 in the morning, she was dragged to the front hall to put on makeup. It took her 3 hours to put on her makeup. Yunjian fell asleep 3 times in the middle of the process. In spite of it, the effect of the makeup was excellent. Coupled with Yunjian's perfectly straight and slender figure, no one could tell that she was the mother of 2 children. April 1, 2005 was Yunjian's 20th birthday. Everyone who had just arrived on this day. To celebrate the wedding, Ce announced that all restaurants in the world would be open to the public for 10 days for free. He would pay for all the expenses. For the 10 days, the world was enveloped in a joyous atmosphere. Every restaurant that made a profit had the words "Happy Marriage to Madame Yunjian" and Mr. C written on their doors. Ce married Yunjian and brought her home amidst the hustle and bustle. The wedding was held in a church. Everyone was present. It was definitely an unprecedented wedding. The higher-ups of an Hun group, the elders of Kosha mercenaries, the leader of Blood Doll, the CEO of Rongyao Company, and so on. Everyone came to congratulate them. Even the priest in the church was frightened by this scene. It was said that some of the international underworld bosses would have a very grand wedding. The priest was also an experienced and knowledgeable person. He had seen many things. But the priest had never seen this wedding. Other than Yunjian and Ce's subordinates, everyone who was slightly famous internationally had agreed to attend the wedding. Regardless of the size of the underworld gangs, even the major assassin organizations were mobilized one after another. Those who didn't know would think that they were going to do something together. At this moment, the priest was standing at the top of the church. He cleared his throat, and after the ceremony, he asked Ce in front of everyone. Now let's invite the groom to express his thoughts. May I ask what the groom wants to do now? When Ce heard this, he didn't even look at the priest. He just held Yunjian's small hand with one hand and curled his lips. He didn't even think before saying, 10 days and 10 nights. The priest didn't hear clearly, but in order to maintain order, the priest cleared his throat and asked Yunjian the same question. So our groom wants to kiss our bride. Then what about the bride? If you were given a chance, what would be the one thing you want to do the most? He thought that Yunjian's reply would be more shy and bashful, but who would have thought that Yunjian would say so openly in front of everyone? I want to do things with the person I love. Chapter 2691. Oh, so our bride wants to have sex with the groom. The priest held up a book with one hand, while his other hand floated in the air, pointing here and there. He habitually repeated what Yunjian had just said. However, when the priest spoke up to this point, he suddenly paused. Why was this sentence so explicit? Cough, cough, cough. It seems that our bride and groom are very loving, so now the most exciting moment has arrived. The groom can kiss you. The priest was indeed experienced and knowledgeable. After he realized that the sentence was explicit, He used words to turn it around. People in Western countries were more direct, unlike Z country, where things like kissing were usually done by couples hiding in small rooms. Of course, many couples who pursued fashion would choose to get married in a Western wedding ceremony. Yun Jian and Ce chose to get married in a Western wedding ceremony, which meant that Ce kissing Yun Jian in public was a very normal ceremony. Without waiting for the priest to finish saying, "The groom can kiss your bride," Ce had already bent down and kissed Yun Jian hard on the lips in front of everyone. He was swearing to the whole world that the woman in front of him would forever be his private property. Okay. The priest saw that Ce had taken the initiative to kiss Yun Jian's lips, without waiting for him to finish speaking. 3 black lines flashed across his eyes, and he helplessly cooperated with him silently. After he finished speaking, the priest could not help but whisper softly, and described it in Z country's language. "Actually, you can enter the bridal chamber now." So impatient. Seriously. What the priest did not know was that Ce was indeed impatient. He had not seen Yun Jian for a week. Such an unbearable rule could only be comforted by being in bed with Yun Jian for 10 days and 10 nights. On the day of the wedding, everyone from Yulong mainland, Gunyanji, Linong, Huangyan, the king of gods, and Beiliyan were present. However, on the second day of the wedding, the king of gods took Beiliyan to explore the boundless world of earth. He only left a letter with 5 big words written on it. "I, old son, am leaving." The main reason why the Lord God wrote the letter in such a tone was because he had recently watched too many classic television dramas filmed on Earth, such as Journey to the West and Monkey King. Although the overgod still looked like a young man in his 20s on the outside, his heart was as childish as a child's. After the wedding, Yun Jian and Ce disappeared for 10 days. On the 10th day, when everyone saw Yun Jian, she could barely get out of bed. However, 1 month after the wedding, Yun Jian and Ce suddenly disappeared. No matter how hard the kosher mercenaries and an Hun organization searched, they could not find a single trace of them. Hulumber grassland. The grassland stretched as far as the eye could see, and there was no one around. Because the grassland covered a large area, even if there were people, they wouldn't be able to see each other from 10 miles away. Somewhere in the grassland, a cozy tent was set up. Ce hugged Yun Jian, as they sat on the green grassland where the air was fresh. Ring, ring, ring. There's a call, there's a call. The childish ringtone that the little guy had inadvertently set rang. Yun Jian recalled that today was the 15th day since they went missing a month after their wedding. Thinking that she and Ce had been missing for too long and would be worried, Yun Jian reached for the phone. "Ignore it. It's just a bunch of eyesores." Ce kicked the phone away. In the next second, his gaze on Yun Jian was no longer pure. His burning gaze looked like he wanted to swallow Yun Jian whole. "Xiao Jian, give me another child, Ce's burning gaze was fixed on Yun Jian. In the next second, he wrapped his arms around Yun Jian's arms and hooked his legs around Yun Jian's slender legs as well, bringing Yun Jian into the tent for another round of lovemaking. The sky was the blanket, and the ground was the bed. It was great that there was no one in the wilderness within 100 miles. Next time when he went back, he should give the girl and the little guy a litter of wolf pups. That would be great. With that in mind, Ce worked harder. Gentler, too fast. The author has something to say. This is the ending of the main text. I'll write more side stories. The main text isn't comprehensive, but I'll try my best to fill in all the loopholes in the side stories. Thank you for your love along the way. I'm very, very touched. This book is the one that I've spent the most effort on. I'll make sure it ends the side stories in the most perfect situation. The side stories will be done in about 3 to 4 months. You can choose your favorite couple or plot to read the side stories. Love you guys. Also, the female lead of the new book is Killer and Grim reborn on campus. She's still pretentious, face-slapping, scumbag bullying, and pampering. The book will be published on July 11, 2019, which is this year's summer break. You can add me on QQ for details. I'll post the release date in QZone. A certain author's QQ is 262-570-2229. The reason why it's taking so long is because I want to finish the side stories and prepare for the new book. Come. Wonderful book house. Chapter 2692. July 11, 1987. Southeast Asia, Myanmar. In the market, many people were selling all kinds of goods and shouting in their own country's language to the passers-by. Myanmar was not a rich country. At the corner of the market, after turning countless corners, there was no one in the dark. 20 to 30 Burmese men in tattered clothes were sitting on the ground in various postures. This group of people, without exception, were all street gangsters. They could not afford to live in a house, and would even do something against their conscience for a mouthful of food. Ta. At this time, a thin and lean man ran out from the dark. "Brothers, there's work to be done. Someone in the underworld is buying children at a high price. It's a little risky and the price is very high. Do you want to do it?" As soon as they heard that there was work to be done, the group of men who were sitting in the corners and even sitting on the smelly gutters all stood up. They didn't mind being dirty at all. "We can't even fill our stomachs. If we're late, we'll starve to death. Not to mention the risk. Even if someone puts a gun on our head, we'll do it if we have money." Z country on the busy streets, occasionally passing by the downtown area. One could hear such a beautiful female announcer's voice coming from the loudspeaker. "Hello everyone, I'm Xiao Xiao, an announcer from the radio and television station. Recently, there have been several cases of children going missing in Z country. I hope that all the parents will take good care of their children and don't let them stay alone in unsupervised places." On the edge of M country, an archipelago, a group of 5 to 7 years old children were escorted to this island. Looking at the number of people, there were 50 of them. The children were escorted to this archipelago, looking around. Some were scared, some were crying, and some were silent. The group of children was escorted by the 20 to 30 Burmese men. This group of Burmese men handed over to the person in charge of the archipelago, took the money and left. When they left, they turned around and looked at the group of children, revealing a big smile. "Little babies, Uncle will send you here." After saying this, the Burmese man laughed and walked away happily with another group of Burmese men. The 50 children who were brought to the archipelago all howled and cried, shouting, "Mommy! I want Mommy! I want to go home! Daddy, Grandma, where are you? Where is this place?" Woo! Fear, panic, screams and wails. The wails of 50 children less than 10 years old resounded throughout the entire area. The entire island was filled with the cries of children. However, in the crowd, there was a 5-year-old girl who stood in stark contrast to the group of crying children. The little girl was delicate and beautiful. She had a pair of sharp and deep eyes. Her eyelashes were long and narrow, and when they fluttered up and down, it made people's hearts melt. She shut her mouth and didn't cry or make a fuss. She wasn't afraid or panicked. She just stared at the 20 to 30 Burmese men who had deceived and kidnapped them to the archipelago, to this hellish and cruel island. "Wah! Mother! I want Mommy!" A child next to her cried and accidentally bumped into the little girl's body, but the little girl didn't seem to feel anything. She just stood there and stared at the 20 to 30 Burmese men who were hugging and cheering each other as they left with the rewards. She memorized the faces of the 20 to 30 Burmese men who had kidnapped them to the archipelago, without missing a single one. The author has something to say, starting to update the story. The first part of the story is about how the female lead and Shinji grew up in the assassin organization. Moi love you all. M. Chapter 2693. The little girl stared at the 20 to 30 Burmese men who were hugging each other as they left, until they disappeared in front of her. Other than the little girl, the rest of the children just kept crying nonstop. Some of the children were fine. They just stood there and looked up to the sky, crying and howling. Usually, in an unfamiliar place, the disobedient children were like a group of tadpoles looking for their mother. As long as they were placed in a spacious place, they would run everywhere. The 50 children, both boys and girls, were like tadpoles looking for their mother. They ran wildly in all directions. As they ran, they looked up to the sky and screamed like headless flies. One of the children who ran the fastest had already reached the shore of the island, and was rushing madly into the sea with the seawater. "I want to find my mother. Take me home. I want to find my father." Wah wah wah. Wah wah wah. I. Bang. 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 The child cried as he ran. When he reached the surface of the sea, 3 gunshots suddenly rang out. The 3 gunshots hit the head, heart, and thigh of the child running towards the sea. A second later, the child suddenly stopped breathing and fell to the ground. Although the children were still young and didn't know what death was, when they saw this scene, all the children instinctively stopped and shut their mouths. Clap, clap, clap. At this time, applause came from the side. The person in charge of the island who was talking to the 20 to 30 Burmese men smiled and walked to the center of the group of children. What a group of cute children. The person in charge laughed and then lowered his head slightly. He looked at the group of children and suddenly said, "Let's get to know each other. I'm Jay, you can call me by my name Jay." Jay was the name of the person in charge. The group of children huddled together and blinked, not understanding their current situation. "Jay, don't scare the children." A tall man with a full beard came from the side. He looked like a Westerner. Jay laughed and retreated to the side. The bearded man walked in front of all the children and suddenly stretched out his arms and made a welcoming gesture. "Welcome to an Hun organization. I'm your instructor. You can call me Jikala." After Jikala finished speaking, he suddenly clapped his hands. Immediately, someone passed a number tag to Jikala. Jack Law waved the number plate in his hand. "Now let's play a game. I have number plates from 1 to 50. The number plate you get will be your name." After Jikila finished speaking, he ordered his men to distribute the number tags. Seeing that all the children were seriously looking at the number plate in his hand, Jack Law narrowed his eyes. "Jack Law, what are you doing?" Jay walked up to Jack Law and grinned fiercely. "Brother, I'm helping you." Jack patted Jay's shoulder and whispered in Jay's ear. "Don't worry, I'm not going to give you a chance." The children have just arrived, so of course we have to hold a welcoming ceremony. The real game will only begin tomorrow. After that, Jack Law patted Jay's shoulder again and walked away with a smile. The little girl, who had come to an unfamiliar place with a group of children, was the opposite of the other children. She didn't cry or make a fuss. She took the number plate and glanced at it. The number plate was very simple. It was made of very ordinary material. The little girl glanced at the number plate and saw the number that represented her name. 006. Come. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 2694. A group of children, regardless of gender, were taken into a large venue. The venue was only covered by a simple shade. On the large venue, there were many double beds. The double bed was a bunk bed. The bed was not strong, and people stood on it and swayed. After a group of children were arranged here, they quickly chose their beds. 006 stood in place without saying a word. He waited for everyone to choose their own beds before he walked over to a remote upper bunk that no one had chosen and slept. Tick tick tick. At night, the only clock hanging in this simple residence was turning. All the children slept soundly. The next day, before 4 o'clock before dawn, a group of children were forced to get up. It was Instructor Chekla, holding a thick whip in his hand, who ran in the end and whipped the children who couldn't run fast. Early in the morning, the screams of the children spread throughout the island. But no one paid attention. The children didn't even know why they were being whipped. They ran in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening. In this way, half a month passed. Some children who ran slowly were covered with injuries all over their bodies. No one treated them. Some children were so tired that they couldn't run anymore. Because they were whipped, they got up from the ground and continued to move forward. In a month, nearly 10 of the 50 children died. The children found that as long as someone in the crowd didn't move, they would be pulled out, and the child would never come back here. Tonight, I'm going to play a little game with you. Chekla picked his nose, laughed twice, and suddenly spoke. Go back, all of you. Jay waved after Chekla said this. As soon as the children rushed back to the nest, all the children were in groups of 2 or 3. Only one child slept in a bed in the corner. 006 was alone, had no friends, and didn't speak. What game will Instructor Chekla play with us in the evening? A little girl asked her playmate. I don't know. If we perform well, we should have meat to eat at night. The little girl's playmate said to her. With that, the little girl's playmate suddenly glanced at 006, and then said to the little girl, she doesn't have any friends. Is she sick? My mother said that sick children can't find friends. Hearing her playmate's words, the little girl nodded. I think so. Then should we play with her? No need. He'll spread the disease to us. 006 sat on the bed and heard the conversation between the two little girls clearly. At this moment, the door was opened, and a group of people led the children sitting on the bed out of the door. In the empty space, a large iron cage appeared in the air. The people outside the cage could clearly see what was happening inside the cage. Chekala was sitting on a high bench, leaning back and squinting at the cage. At this time, the numbers 001 and 002 were brought into the iron cage. Little friends, let's play a little game. Whoever is good at the game will have meat to eat tonight. Jack Law put his hands on the seat and leaned forward. He narrowed his eyes and looked at 001 and 002, who were brought into the iron cage. The rules of the game are very simple. Gekla spoke again. As he spoke, he licked his lips with his tongue. Immediately, Gekla's men took 2 daggers and handed the 2 daggers to 001 and 002, who were locked in the iron cage. At this time, Gekla leaned back and suddenly said the rules of the game. Hold the knives in your hands and stab the person standing in front of you to death, just like how I showed you how to stab the big wolf dog this afternoon, okay? If you stab the people standing opposite you to death, you will have meat to eat tonight. Calm. Wonderful book house. Chapter 2695. Eating meat was definitely a very attractive thing for children. Even if the children didn't know what death was as a human, they still had a faint understanding of death. If I stab her to death, then she won't play with me and sleep with me anymore. 001 asked Jack Keela as he clutched the dagger in his hand, trembling as he looked at 002 in front of him. Playing with you and sleeping with you is boring. As long as you stab her to death, you will have meat to eat, and you can also see your father and mother. Jikara curled his lips, he smiled coldly, and moved back slightly. But 001 was still hesitating. 002 had already stabbed 001's body with the dagger, and his mouth made a trembling cry. I want to eat meat. I want father and mother. I want to eat meat. 002 stabbed 001's body with the dagger, and was so scared that he sat down on the ground, and his mouth kept repeating this sentence. Clap, clap, clap. Jikara clapped his hands, squinted his eyes and said, Great! Good job. After Jikara's words, someone immediately dragged 001's body out of the iron cage. 002 was brought out. The next opponents were not in the order of the number plates, but the next children either cried or screamed, but in the end, they were all forced to kill their opponents. When 006 stepped into the big iron cage, Jikara's eyes suddenly narrowed deeply. When this group of children first came to the island, he didn't forget that this little girl in a group of children didn't cry or make a fuss, and was very quiet and very special. Jikara narrowed his eyes, and just as he was about to speak, he saw 006 turn around, and before he could announce the start, he stabbed the little girl who followed him into the cage. Jikara saw this and sat up straight. The previous group of children were forced to cry and stab the opponent's body. But this child... I haven't said start yet, and you started the game, Jikara said, squinting at 006, and then continued to say, Are you not afraid of breaking the rules of our game? Will I die if I break the rules? 006, who had been silent, suddenly asked such a question. I won't die. Being questioned by a 5-year-old child, Jack Law was stunned. He was surprised at the child's IQ. 006 just looked at Gekila and walked out of the iron cage. Ha ha ha. Gekla laughed out loud. In the one-on-one battle, the 50 children were instantly reduced by half, leaving only 25. 006 is still a man of few words in a group. 3 months later, a new batch of children was sent to Anhun. This new batch of children who were sent to an Hun group repeated the training method of 006 batch of children. The days passed by quickly. In the blink of an eye, the group of half-grown children had all grown up by a year. During this period of time, nothing happened. The iron cage fight a year ago was held by this group of crazy people to eliminate the useless weaklings. Survival of the fittest, and elimination of the weak. Those children who did not dare to raise their daggers from the beginning should be eliminated from the very beginning, for no reason at all. A year later, 006 had just turned 6 years old. On this day, 006 sat on her bed with her eyes closed. Bang! She heard someone kick the lower bunk under her bed. She opened her eyes and looked down. She saw an 8 or 9-year-old little girl with her hands on her waist, looking at Yunjian with murderous eyes. Get down here. I've taken a fancy to this bed. It's mine. 006's eyes moved, looking at the number tag on the little girl's chest, only to see a number written on it that she would never forget for the rest of her life. 095. P.S. I'll write about all the supporting characters, CP, and so on. Everyone can add me on QQ and tell me if there's any other story you want to see. I'll write it. Everyone can also see the story you like. The title clearly states that I love you all. My QQ. 262-570-2229. Com. Wonderful Book House. Com. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.